Okay, so Kev, I mean, you ain't got no homeboys to call. You ain't got nobody.
Lacking out here today. I'm lacking.
Well, we definitely run it.
My other homie left.
Get on episode 7 because this is big. I am Hippolyta energy right here. Like this is. Big.
I was about to say the women was running it anyways the whole show.
Period. Big Letitia energy right now.
Right, Letitia fucking Lewis.
Period. Well, we thank you all so much for joining us. Like I said, more people will be coming in a second. Kev and I. We got some new faces, so now it's a little awkward to share with y'all what's been going on with us, considering this is the first time you all came to the room. But Kev and I have taken L's for the past 3 months. And it's been very, it's been unexpected like a mug. So we've been on our own LoveCraft shit, trying to figure out a lot of stuff. So August, we lost a member. It was 3 of us. He decided to go on with his future endeavors. They kind of threw off our agenda and schedule. And then going into September and October, Kev and I gained ancestors. So we needed a break. Kev, you could touch on a little bit.
I mean, you pretty much said it. That's why it's like, yeah, I'm definitely outnumbered now because the other homie that was here, he's no longer with us anymore. That was my other guy. It was usually TV and outnumbered by us and everything. Now it's the other way around. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, we had a plan. We literally had everything planned out, and then the universe is like, nah.
No. No. Like, no, not right now, not today, none this month. How about November? We was like, nigga, like what? Yeah. But luckily we had good television, and that kind of kept us to stay focused, to keep the wheels turning. And it's a blessing because hey, we got new folks, and we steady got new women coming in this motherfucker. That's what I'm talking about. Yes. Hi, Brittany. Welcome. So we're definitely trying to get the wheels back turning, still in the process of, partially grieving, partially trying to get back to a whole new schedule. So Kevin, I really thank y'all so much for being here, and we can hop right into it. So we ain't gonna keep y'all too long because it's Sunday. So LoveCraft Country, to get everybody engaged, I want to ask each of you all, what's a word that you take away from LoveCraft Country? Just one word. Anybody can start. These faces are so cool.
Right.
Well, for me, the word that I take away is ancestral reverence. For real, that was like heavy for me. All right, reverence. Carrie, like that's 2 words. Anybody else?
Can it be 2 words? Can we do 2 words?
Shit, I said 2 words.
All right, I'm gonna just say Black stories.
Yeah. Black stories, for sure. Anybody else?
I'll say, go ahead, Leslie.
I'm gonna say family.
Yeah, family. Okay, Erica?
I was gonna say empowerment.
That word. Carrie?
Reparations.
Period. Okay. Cam, what about you?
I legit just had my word and I just lost it when she was like reparations. I was like, hey, but Black sci-fi, Black, that's definitely what I would say.
Yeah. I would definitely want to say that I don't want to cut anybody else off with so we can get into the agenda. Anybody else had words that they wanted to share or say? Okay, so everybody, okay, cool. Okay, so one thing that I can honestly say about 2020 is that we are all becoming tapped in. And when I say tapped in, more like Black people are coming to a space of finding empowerment through different mediums. And one thing that I think we all can agree on, whether it's from Pussy Valley, P Valley, or whether it's from LoveCraft Country, whichever we were watching throughout this whole year, it definitely highlights the pain, trauma, and the shit that's in our bloodlines. And it goes back into our history deeper than what we even realize. So for it to be in these mediums, for us to understand, research more, learn more, and be proud of more, like that's really deep and heavy. So I want to get into the first episode, Sundown. how did we all feel about the first episode of Sundown? Highlighting the fact that we learned the history of sundown towns and the Black Negroes traveler guide and stuff like that. So how did they all feel for y'all? Because that first episode, I'm not even finished faking to y'all. My heart was beating for like 20 minutes straight. I just knew I was gonna have an anxiety attack because that shit was scary. Like that was the horror of it. So who wants to go first?
That really reminded me of the movie like Jeepers Creepers. So
Yeah.
yeah, like I was like that, like really like got me into it, like the same way I was like on edge like the whole time, like oh my, and I didn't, and it's just like a lot of things that even like the guide to like where to go, like it kind of just like we kind of had to do not similar, but it made me think of like how we do guys now of where to shop Black. You know, where to go spend your money, like to support Black people. I mean, it's a different kind of twist to it, but it's kind of just like almost the same. It's like crazy how this thing that they went through back then that we kind of just like history repeats itself.
It really does, yeah. Like anybody else before I get to talk, because I talk too damn much. So anybody.
No, I mean, it made me remember, I had just as much anxiety, and it made me think back to some memories as like being a kid, and my mom is from New Orleans and my dad's from Chicago, but we lived in Chicago. So every summer we would take trips and road trips because we couldn't afford paying for plane tickets for all 5 of us to get on the plane and go to New Orleans, but we would take road trips to get to New Orleans. And like, I vividly remember there were times when my mom's like, we're not stopping. We're not stopping. Not this town. Don't get gas here. And I'm like, so my anxiety was like, oh, Jesus, they're not gonna make it. Like,
oh, you're breaking up a little bit. Ooh, where'd she go?
I still see her.
Oh, okay, she paused. Brittany, I'm gonna let her. Somebody else can continue talking. Brittany, you can you hear us? You paused a little bit, so we missed what you were saying. You paused.
No, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, it was just too relatable to see and experience that, because there's been times as a kid we drive down to New Orleans road tripping and my mom would be like, we can't stop in this town. We got to go to the next one 50 miles down to get gas. And so my anxiety was on 10.
Yeah.
Mine close to home.
Mine definitely was too. Anyone else?
Carrie has something to say.
That I do. I like the references to Gordon Park's pictures that was in it. I love all the historical references in every single episode. I think that one was like more hitting on the Gordon Parks, and I know I'm saying his name so country right now, so excuse the St. Louis in me. I love that, and like Brittany said, the whole the Sunset Town, but like for me, it wasn't even like going down south, just like literally leaving St. Louis and going to South County. And you already know at a certain time, you can't even really be traveling throughout Missouri because we got them Sunset Towns. Oh, look, it's a male joining.
Gang. I'm not alone.
Yay.
I am no longer alone.
I definitely agree with that, but it's still a thing. Like, shit, even in St. Louis, I don't really want to be in Clayton around midnight. I definitely don't want to be in St. Charles around no damn midnight, and my people stay in St. Charles. So how do we, and I guess it's in our bloodline, but my question to everybody in the room is, with the pressure of racing the sun, the pressure of this racist ass cop following you and fucking with you at the same time, the exact same time, how would y'all have done that? Like, you know what I'm saying? We got mothers on here, we got fathers on here, you know what I'm saying? How would you have been able to, how would, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you were Atticus driving, like, would you have kept the same speed? Would you have like hit into the cornfield? Like, how would y'all have taken that? Like, what would have been some tactics that would have came across for you all to survive?
Okay, I just want to go back to my words was Black story, and why I think it's so important is because obviously, like in our history, we aren't taught about our history, like, and so and especially with emotion. So to see our stories be told in such an emotional way where you could feel it, like you might know about lynchings, you might have seen some pictures, but to see it and feel it. So it's just so important that we continue to tell our stories. But to go back to what your question, that anxiety, like, and we be like I've seen like on social media like side comments about our ancestors and like what they was dealing with. And I know we got our own shit we dealing with, so I understand like we could probably relate it to something. But that shit, like, I would have had a heart attack. I wouldn't even got back in the car. Like, I couldn't. If I was driving, I would have froze. I mean, he handled that so well, and I think it shows you the pain and trauma that Black men have just, taken in and held together.
Yeah.
And
be a protector and a provider.
Right.
Yeah. Who is about to get heavy? Anybody? Because we about to unpack this shit for real. Any other thoughts, comments, questions, concerns?
I want to say one thing that's interesting about like shopping Black, like because in America, our start in America was from slavery, so it's interesting. Like during that era, like I know we had businesses, so I don't want to take away from that because obviously they highlighted Tulsa, Oklahoma, but like the business guy was to go into places. I mean, the Black guy was to go into places of white establishments where Black people could feel comfortable and accepted. And it's such an interesting thing because, and we've talked about it with our cousin, like how the idea of us getting away from completely shopping Black and having our own towns and having and again, for different reasons because of massacres like Tulsa, Oklahoma. But it's just interesting now because now we have a choice. Like, and I don't think back then they necessarily had a choice. Like, they had to fight to sit at these white-owned establishments, and so just going back to like paying respects to our ancestors.
Yeah, for sure. And it's still a struggle in that because I don't know if you all been hearing, but now because the height of Black Renaissance is coming back and it's coming back very strong, whether it's through creativity, music, arts, culture, we're also seeing like even through clothing. Like we have white people perpetrating our culture once again, and like living off still constantly living off our backs. Like they're creating these melanated, clothing lines, and it's really white people owning it behind the scene, and a lot of social media accounts that's like all Black humor that only we will understand, and it's white people running that, and it's I feel like now, back then was wicked, but I think it's just as wicked now because it's like there's so many ways, there's so many crooks and crevices to hide within our culture because we're so open with it. And it's so, oh my God, it's so, everybody wants it, we are a beam of light, and people definitely try to find ways to feed off of constantly still feeding off our culture. So yeah, Sundown Town definitely triggered the fuck out of me. And I think there was beautiful writing from Misha Green and, Jordan Peele and all of and what we love about it the most is it came from a Black woman's creative mind. And we're talking about sci-fi, we're talking about, how we're watching what our grannies and them went through, you know what I'm saying? We only hear the stories, and I only hear stories through what has happened to them through trauma. They'll come and tell us like, don't, why do you got locks? And why do you, cause they don't, and I'm like, Granny, what, huh? But I'm like, damn, like back then you couldn't wear your natural hair. You couldn't be as free as you wanted to be. So yeah, that shit was a little scary. Any other questions before we go into episode 2? Comments, Erica? No, okay.
Sorry, it's a mess. I just got in the house. It's a mess over here. My bad.
Okay. So we do know within LoveCraft Country, we ain't gonna stunt. Some episodes is like, the fuck's going on? Like, not really fucking with it. So we can go into episode 2, but not really, because it threw me off a little bit. Kev, you want to talk about episode 2? You want to talk about?
I mean, it's the same sentiment across the board. After I watched it, I sat there because I watched episode 1 and I was like, okay, I like how it's starting. Tension, it's building, it's good. I
Right.
mess with it. Episode 2 came in at the end of it. I was just kind of sitting there like, what is this?
What is-
what are we doing here?
What's
What is
happening
this?
here?
And somebody asked me, how did I feel about the episode? And I was like, I don't know. I'm not sure. I was like, it was cool.
Can you refresh what was episode 2?
So it was it's called Whitey's on the Moon. It was when they went to like a castle or some shit and they did like this weird ass ritual. It was kind of all over the place. And that's when they met the white guy who was really Christina.
Now, what I will say about that episode is the foreshadowing, because that's something that I want to talk about. And because there was foreshadowing in each episode that you didn't really pay attention to. And I would say that was like the strongest points of the episode, even though it made me sit there and be like, what happened? But after watching the other episodes, it's like, oh, because if you remember the stories, not the stories, but the dreams they had, if you remember Uncle George's dream, that was foreshadowing. Didn't nobody peep it. Didn't nobody catch it. That was Tick's mama. And you know, and it was just like he laid it down the line. You like, oh. And even in the first episode, when he brought up when Tick first came back and he was in his uncle's shop and he was discussing things about his pops, and he mentioned, I forgot exactly what he mentioned, but his uncle froze up and was like, wait, what did he say? What happened? And it's like those little hints of foreshadowing is what I liked about the episode. But I was still at the end, I was like, so what is this?
Yeah, I ain't get it. I ain't gonna lie. The only takeaways that I got from episode 2 was Uncle George dying, and then they played Leon Bridges. Like that's it. I was like, okay, what happened? Like, but,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm gonna tell you what confused me about 2. So in 2, when what's Christina dad's name?
White man.
Okay, white man. Okay. When he shot, so he shoots both of them, right? And Letitia he brings back, okay? But George is still obviously shot. And he said that he would heal him after Tig did the ceremony. And I do remember in that same episode, when they okay, hold on, let me say one more thing. This kind of reminds me of Stranger Things, and I like science, but it's something I never really fully understood. And like in Stranger Things, like they would just make shit up, and it would be like factual, and it's like, nah, y'all just made that shit up. But you be like, whatever, we gonna go with it. It makes sense. And that's what this reminded me of, like when they was at that dinner and Uncle George was talking about like they was like, or Tick was like they was the bloodline, and so y'all gotta leave, get up and go. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna go with that. But then the white man, Christina daddy, explained why he was different from them. And I kind of didn't really understand that because, and maybe this goes back to my point, because I felt like if he could heal Letitia, why didn't Tick not have those type of powers? Or did he? And he did not know how to use it? Because the whole season, I'm like, Tick gonna bring Uncle George back, because if Christina daddy could do it, why could he not do it? I think I kind of missed that.
He didn't have the knowledge.
Yeah.
He didn't know the magic. He didn't actually really even utilize some of the magic until I think it was like episode 7 or 8.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
And also, the magic was only to a certain extent that they could have, because they constantly needed the bloodline of like Atticus to keep making it more powerful. That's why Christina was like really like deep on, I have to have Atticus to complete this ritual to be powerful, because it was either time had went by so far to where, time had went by so, you know, a way to where she didn't get the knowledge taught to her because she was a woman. They wouldn't let her into the circle or whatever like that. And then on top of that, they constantly, because if you think it was between 7 and 9 where the Tick's mama was like, you needed my baby to sacrifice him for blood to have more power. And that's when she was like, I'm out. 9 months pregnant, fuck y'all hoes. Like I'm out here. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't sacrifice my baby. So they constantly needed to sacrifice.
Yeah, okay.
relevant, I guess. I don't know. There's a lot of shit that threw me off.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense to me. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna wait till we get to the last episode to bring that back up. Okay.
Period. So any other thoughts and comments on episode 2?
I got one. So this was one of my favorite episodes. It was like one of the what the F's going on. But I love Gil Scott Heron, and I think the fact that it was called Whitey on the Moon, and like the whole poem is essentially about white people going all these extravagant ways to put white people on the white men on the moon, while at the time black people are like literally on earth suffering. Like we're not even thinking about the fucking moon. We're thinking about like survival. And you think about just that episode, the white people, they mindset like, I want to have immortality, I want to live forever. Whereas they all on their mission, one to Uncle George to find safe havens where black people can travel, but also the mission of saving Montrose ass. And that's a whole nother story.
We're gonna get on here in a minute.
But like even like the black people mindsets was just like, even if I have the magic, my magic is gonna be used to save one of us, not to like progress into world domination and shit like the white men. And so I like one thing I love about this show is how every title, especially how every song, that the concluding song relates back to the overall message. And I think in episode 2, that's what I got from it. And then you like introduced to Christina as the sneaky ass white. I was like eyeing her since episode 2 because she did the same thing white feminists do, where it's like, hey, we just like my dad is oppressing and locking you up, he's doing the exact same thing to me. So we need to stick together, because if you with me, then I can get this magic and we'll be great. Like that. And I was side-eyeing her ass the whole show. After when we was introduced, I was like, every white woman, like especially 1954, like, come on now.
Let's give it up one time for Miss Henderson, the historian. Let's give it up. I'm trying to tell you, because you didn't say Gil Scott, like shit that I didn't really catch, you know what I'm saying? But like, thank you, Carrie, for just knowing your shit. Know your shit, queen, period. Yes, that's, gotta give it to you. Yeah, but yeah, that, and why is it that our black men become weak to a white woman savior? Is it because like she gives them this mindset of thinking that they're more powerful than not realizing that they're powerful with or without her support? And because Atticus was so like, no, we gotta trust Christina, and Letitia like, nigga, like what? Like how? Like, you know, but I don't know, like I don't know. I just be talking, but that shit is yeah.
I was gonna say, like, on the opposite end of it though, like I feel like she was the only person that they had, I guess, at their, I'm trying to think of a good word, like at their leisure, I guess, that was willing to, in a way, I mean, because I totally, I hear, I agree, but she was the only person, I guess, that was willing to open up that door, as far as like, what they could do and the possibilities, because otherwise, I feel like they wouldn't have had anything but just, when I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart. But anyways, she was one of the people, I guess, that was kind of willing to, I guess, kind of on the flip side, show them, what power, I guess, that the magic had, whereas everybody else, even when he went to that dinner, I don't remember what episode that was, I love that part whenever, okay, cool. Whenever he was like, he showed like, hey, I got this bloodline, so y'all gonna have to get up out of here, because the other white people wouldn't even, necessarily, I feel like, even listen to what he had to say, or even, right. And so I guess like, whereas Christina, even though she was playing it for her own benefit, she was still one of the few white people, I guess, that was willing to say, to admit what power that they had. And she knew she needed it. As much as she wanted to downplay it or whatever, she knew she needed it. And so I feel like within, like in that same breath, it was almost like, an empowerment piece for them, because they knew that she needed them, and without him, she didn't have nothing.
Ain't that fucking crazy that it takes a white person to tell you about the power that you fucking exude and you don't even know about it because they stole it?
Right, exactly.
Like, it's sad.
It is.
I just want to say, like, I think that Black men might be mad at me for saying this. Okay. What I've been seeing, I just actually had a conversation recently with my cousin and husband about it. I think like Black women have forged a way out of the most fucked up situations to still have our own minds. And I feel like we have created a standard within ourselves to figure this shit out for ourselves. Where for Black men, and it makes sense. So I do want to say this, and I'm generally speaking, Black man standard sometimes is the white man, and white women want to. I feel like if you use Christina and Tick, so Christina standard or what she's like desires to be is similar to it's the white man. She wants what the white man has, and Black men, again, generally speaking, I know this is being recorded, so I'm trying to be like as politically correct as possible, but
no, we don't do that here. You just say what you want.
Okay, so Black men, like their standard, which is fucked up. So I'm not saying that it doesn't come from a fucked up place, but their desire sometimes to be what the white man has or what they possess, and that's why So to answer your question, why do they look to white women? Because Black women, we done said fuck it. Like we gonna figure this shit out for our own. We making our own shit. Black men, generally speaking, especially then, are still like looking to have what white men possess. White women want what white men possess, and they riding on their coattails. Meanwhile, Black women, we like, fuck this, we doing it our own way. So that's why I think like Christina and Tick had that like connection, because, and again, it makes sense because white people holding this knowledge. Like you said, they still had power from them. And like Erica said, like Christina understood, she had the history that was stolen from Tick and his family. So,
well, yeah, and I feel like to go. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead, Erica.
Well, yeah, just to kind of go off like what Valerie was saying too, was like even though, and I mean maybe it's like a Black man thing that I guess maybe women don't necessarily have, but where they're still trying to prove that manhood part of themselves, and so unfortunately they equate that with how I'm being treated by the white man and how I look to them, because then I feel like it's a totally different thing, I guess, this like just even like the whole boy thing and now calling Black men, and they're called boys. I feel like it's almost like they feel like they have something to prove in a way, which they don't, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I hope that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense. Carrie?
Yeah, I just want to go back to Christina because I really cannot stand this.
I kind of liked her in my own little way, though.
I feel like Christina.
I ain't gonna lie, I kind of like her too a little bit.
I think
I feel like she's kind of real a little bit.
She is the epitome, though. Like she's literally the epitome historically of white women. Yeah, all the good shit she did was literally for benefit of herself. It just so happened that the Black people benefit off of it. She was like, I just feel like, and even the historical connections that was made in the show, Tulsa, Oklahoma, fucked up because of a white woman. Emmett Till keep getting mentioned, fucked up because of a white woman. And then you have Christina with this pacifying way of trying to help with magic. What she really did was conniving. She knew what was gonna happen to her daddy. She knew that she had to kill Tick so she can be powerful. Now, Black people, our mindset would have been, I got this magic, let's help each other. Her mindset was never on like, let's help each other. Even, and I'm really pissed at how she did Ruby. Like, she really like played emotionally with her. And that's what white women do historically. Like that's a mind emotional fuck. And then I feel like we as Black women, because we are already emotional, we don't take into it as much as Black men do when they especially like, I don't know, white women and Black men is also like treading on water, because they also in that time period, you had to look at you had to kind of look up at her as if she is everything. Like she was a
woman. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me and Christina, like me, Christina, and Will, we all beefing with each other. I ain't fuck with none of them.
Nah, Christina was only in it for herself. Everything, like you said, everything she did, she was very meticulous with what she did, and everything she did was for her benefit. She planted so many seeds to help herself and get the things that she needed. And that was really her main thing. She didn't care for anything else or anybody else, or anything, whatever affected anybody else, as long as she got what she wanted in the end. And if you remember when they came and when she tried to get the book of names, and they was just like, yeah, no, we're not getting it. She was like, all right, okay, cool. Your vulnerability is gone. You can die now. I don't.
You can.
She took
I'm
that
down with you. Away with her.
She walked out the whole spot, whispered a little cantation that was like, yeah, I don't care for you no more. You can die.
And next thing you know,
it's just like, you know, if you get shot now, you're dead. I don't care no more. It's like she was only in it for her benefit. Like if anything else happened to any of them, it didn't matter to her. Otherwise, she would have saved Uncle George. You know,
I feel like I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That was kind of my end point. It was like she would have saved Uncle George, because that was the case if she really had good intentions. You know, she wouldn't have waited for her father to do it. She knew the magic. She knew what to do. She could have did it herself. It didn't benefit her, so therefore she didn't do it.
Okay, I feel like, okay, don't get me wrong, like I didn't like her, like, you know, I'm not like I'm just playing devil's advocate, but she, like, to me, I don't think that she made it seem like she really cared about that. You know what I'm saying? I felt like she, like, and I'm sure we'll get to this later, but I don't know. I wasn't really feeling the sister Rudy, right? That's her name. I feel like Ruby. I feel like she kind of played herself. I feel like Christina didn't have the whole hand in that. You know, she trusted her. She went along with the whole thing about transforming to a white woman and playing a white. Like, I don't know. I wasn't feeling that too much, y'all. But I felt like with Christina, I felt like she, I don't know. Yeah, she was evil. Yeah, she was in it for herself, but I felt like she didn't lie about it. And I like try and convince them that she was on their side. I think that, like, to Erica's point, in some kind of sense, like, I kind of feel like where we at right now between this whole election, she was a greater of the two evils. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like I feel like they knew that too. I feel like they knew that too. You know, I don't think they was all in trusting of her too. I just think, you know, she was what she was, and I felt like she was, like, kind of real about it, except like the whole Will thing. But
yeah, like
she wasn't my. I didn't hate. She was like the villain I kind of like to
hate to love or love to hate.
I kind of liked her a little bit, but not.
I did too.
That was not that she was like a good person, but she was the villain. Like, she was.
Hey man, and she had the perfect look. So that actress was bomb. Like, she was Christina. She had the perfect look for her. Like, she was definitely.
I just, what I really think, and again, you know, I hate to be the person that's like, I kind of liked her. But what I will say though is I feel like everything that she did was kind of like out of desperation. Like, she didn't have nobody on her side. You know what I mean? Her father, you know, and I do feel like, you know, and again, I might be thinking about it like super deep, but like, you know, like Leslie said, like, I appreciated that she was who she was and she didn't lie about it. You know, she, you know, her intentions were very clear from the beginning. Unlike, I feel like how we might say, like, some white people, you know, where they make it seem like they're on our side and they turn out not to be. They knew what it was with her from the beginning. And like what I will say is, like, you know, I feel like she's a case in point where, you know, where it shows like everything isn't hunky-dory on the white side either. You know what I mean? Like, whereas it seems like, you know, this is this prominent white lady and she should have all this and her father is this, but then really on the inside of her life, she didn't have nothing. She didn't have nobody, you know, she didn't have anybody that was going to fight for her, like ticking them, you know, because even her own father kind of was like, oh, you're a girl, you know, you don't matter. You know what I'm saying? And so she had to, empower herself. She had to find all that stuff within herself because nobody was on her team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I mean, I'm not saying that it was cool, but the things that she did, you know, it was shitty. But at the same time, it's like, what would you do if you were her and nobody was on your side? You gonna ride for yourself. You gonna figure it out.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I'm gonna say Ruby would not agree that she was up front. I'm sorry, she played the fuck out of Ruby. Out of all people, William fucked Ruby. Nah,
going on with it.
I'm sorry, Ruby got played by Christina the worst. And
So hold
her own fault.
Hold
okay.
It was her fault. Sorry.
Hold on, ladies. Because for real, we gotta get to episode 5. That strange case, that's Ruby's episode, and we can go the fuck in because that bitch went to mark that famous bar bad. Okay, so we're gonna get on her in a second. Okay. Let's transition. I love how we're able. So what we're going to do, and this is actually helping Kev and I, is we're going to talk about each character through each episode, so we can get through the episodes because each episode is triggering as we get closer and closer. So episode 3, Holy Ghost. That was like the episode of the ancestors, and oh Lord. If that didn't make you cry and give you shivers and shakes and all types of shit, it just truly shows like, even though we understand like, you know, where Christina may come from and it comes to, you know, she not having nobody. And even though we may still be like, you know, you should have known and, you know, this and that and the other, like white people can't be trusted. But when we look at the bloodlines of it, when we look at people's cycles, like, from this doctor crazy man, whatever the fuck he was doing, he was kidnapping Black people and literally operating on them and experimenting on them. And like, I truly believe how you die and leave this dimension in this plane, you're constantly like recreating that in another dimension. And I truly feel that when you die a tragic death, that's like a karmic, you know, a karmic energy that follows you and carries you forever. So if you died in captivity, that's what you're going to always be in, as your spirit can't, you know, elevate in a sense to nowhere else, because that's how you die. That's why they always say like, oh, when I die, please lay me out here and, you know, spread my ashes there, or, you know, I want to be buried here. And it's because that's how your spirit is able to travel. And these ancestors was not able to travel. And the fact that that house held so much history that Christina was trying to get after, you know, from the little contraption thing, it's just one of those things where it's just like, Christina had a choice. Yeah, I know you want to be powerful, but did she ever explain why she wanted the power other than just to have the power to be relevant? What were you going to do with this power? Are you just gonna have it to yourself? So it's like trusting that whole context of like, yeah, they opened the door. Yeah, she was the one to say like, hey, you know, here we are. You know, you're powerful, but I need your power. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, you should have saw from the beginning how she was trying to get up in that fucking house so bad. And all of that shit still ties together of like that bloodline cycle. Like, what are you doing with this power other than, like Carrie said, because she want white man power, and white man power is off our backs. And it's just, it's weird. It's weird. But episode 3, how did y'all feel about episode 3?
Why ain't nobody going?
I'll go. Oh my God, it was my favorite episode. The historical references were amazing. This episode taught me about MLK and the white woman. Remember that when they was like the party, and they like in the party they mentioned it was like really fast, but somebody was like, "Did y'all hear about that?" Huh?
I remember what you're talking about. Well, what did they say exactly?
They said, "Did you hear about that pastor down south who was engaged to a white woman, but now he leaving the movement? He had to be like, his parents forced him to marry a Black woman." And I was like,
"Is that true?
Marry a Black woman?" They called him Michael, and I was like, I know Martin Luther King was born Michael.
Yeah.
But then I did more digging, and that shit was real, and I was like, oh my God, like I don't know about the forcing part.
Wait a minute, Uncle Martin had a white bitch?
Yeah, girl, in Philadelphia. It was crazy. He was madly in love, but who's gonna really listen to him back then?
You're white.
As the leader of the civil rights movement, you come in with a white woman on your arm. And you know,
Let's give it one more time for the historian herself. I didn't even know that. This is unsolved Black history mysteries. Like this is wild.
But the Emmett Till scene was also in there. That part was chilling as hell.
Which one?
The Emmett Till scene when they were doing the Ouija board, and he had So that one was like whoa, and I feel like there was another historical reference in there, but the last scene was the best scene. Well, both of like the exorcism, but what I was just thinking about was like how Letty like went the fuck off with them cars and was like smashing shit like on some Beyonce. And then how the black men came out there, they didn't manage her anger, they just protected her. And then Ruby knew exactly what to do. She silently got in the car, pulled up, popped the trunk. Black men put their guns in there. She drove right past the cops while they just like silently hands up. And it was just like the most gangster shit. And then nobody left the party. All black folks was like all hands on deck. Like, we're gonna protect the house, we're gonna protect the woman, we're gonna take the brother with the guns. But it was like all about protection. I was like, oh my God, this is just so beautiful. So it was literally my favorite episode.
So side note to that.
I love that you said that about the black men didn't like try to hold Letty back from her anger. They just protected her. Like, that's dope. I love that you called that out.
Yeah. So I got a question to everybody here now. I truly feel in my spirit of spirits, this election is gonna kind of drive us to do shit just like that. Yeah, but how do we get to this space of community again? Like, how do we train? I mean, not even train. How do we train each other to know, like, men, hold it down, get the armor. Ladies, stand at the front line and fuck shit up. Like, how do we get back to that? How do we strategically start protecting our own again?
Can I say something? So, all right. So if y'all had ghosts in your house, y'all be scared as fuck, right? Letty, when she realized what it was, she wasn't afraid. And she didn't see them as something to fear. She understood their pain. She saw them for who they were and what they had experienced. And I think a lot of the times we let fear stop us from connecting. So I would say that. I would say I would go with love. Like, I think we all on this call specifically, like, I feel like people are doing amazing things within the community, and like, we just got to be like a force of love for each other and connecting one another. Again, sorry, I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna call out black men. Black men been disappointing us in the media lately. I'm gonna say what it is. Like, when you speak in regards to the election, like, we need our black men in a very special way right now. I'm not saying black women have it all figured out, but I'm saying we've been doing the damn thing, and we just need our black men to protect us, like, and to protect us and respect us in a way that we have never been protected and respected before. And I really want to put emphasis on protected, because so many people are coming at black women, and we need black men to shut that shit down before we ever have to open our mouths. Like, and trust me, we can and we will, but I'm just saying, like, it needs to be they need to be on the front line when it comes to us, because we on the front line for everybody else. So there's my answer.
Black men, Mike Cole and Kev. Ooh, I'm thirsty.
Come on now, don't do that. You know how we are.
Yeah.
you know that don't apply to us.
Right, yeah. Get your friends though.
Right, Mike Cole, where you at?
But CT, now since you threw this back out there, because we had this discussion before, we did this in a previous episode. And and Valerie just pointed out, she was like, get your friends. And I've mentioned this before. I can talk to them all I want to. Now, granted, I don't have friends that way, but I can talk to them all I want. If it does not switch in their head that they physically want to do that, it's nothing I can do. And it gets to a point, because I said this, I was like, it gets to a point where I just quit talking, because I'm talking to a brick wall. Because I've had a friend like that, where I've brought up the things that he's done, and he'll listen and then go right back and do the exact same thing again. So it's like, now we're no longer friends, 8 years later, but at the same time, it's just like, it's only so much I can do for a grown man who has a mind of his own, who doesn't want to hear what we're saying, who doesn't want to hear what you were saying. So
I just want to
It's
say
like,
this. Yeah, you responsible for yourself. You're not responsible for your friends. So I just want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, and then the people that see your light, that's supposed to see and be attracted to it will.
That's real.
Okay,
Wait, you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I'm busted over here, so I'm only a voice. But I was thinking, or what came to mind is there definitely has to be a trust, I think, about across both lines. I would say it's definitely right now a lack of trust from me when it comes to Black men. And I'm sure it's a few of them that feel the same way about us. So definitely it has to be some healing in place where we start to rebuild that trust, where we get to that point where it's like, okay, you can drive up, I'm gonna put the guns in. I know you're not gonna snitch on me. I know you're gonna have my back and when it comes to anything or whatever. But yeah, it's a real like the lines there are definitely broken and have been broken for generations.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I think we need to like really remember like what we fighting for. Like it's not just for us in this moment, and just how I feel like that in Lovecraft is for our ancestors. Like that's my like number one thing for like voting. Like my answer, like when people are like, we Biden ain't shit, Trump ain't shit. I'm like, okay, but our ancestors fought well everything they went through just for us to have this right here that they never had the opportunity to do. So if we're not doing it for us, we're doing it for them, and we're doing it for the future. And I feel like that kind of like ties into Lovecraft because they were fighting for themselves in that moment. They were working to free their ancestors' spirits from bondage. And Letty's pregnant, so she's working to make sure that her son, her seed has a better future or whatever, can make it in this crazy ass world. So I think like if we keep that too in the forefront of our mind, we're not just fighting for us, we fighting for the past, the present, and the future. So I think like once like we really like hone in on that, it'll make it even that much more significant for us, like the fight to change and do the shit that we need to do on the level that we can do it, instead of just like leaving it up to the presidential election, either which way and whatever way it go. Like we still gonna at the end of the day, whoever it is, we have to fight for ourselves and make changes for ourselves in our home. So
And that's on period. Let's give it up for Lindsay for letting us know what we here for. Okay. What we here for. Yes. I'm loving this conversation. Any others before we transition right on into the rest of the episodes?
I will say that it's funny when Carrie brought up the whole Beyonce thing, because actually Misha did write in the script that she wanted Beyonce's playing when she did that. It just didn't get cleared. She was like, I wanted that. It just didn't get cleared for the episode. But that
would have been fire as hell. That would have been fire as hell. Carrie, you had something you wanted to say?
Oh, Kevin, that was like spot on. And I think the gospel music set the tone for that episode. Like at first when I watched it, I was like, that would have been perfect. But like the flow of how gospel music like intersected so perfectly, and then on top of that, like the ending, oh my, I like literally cried when all the ancestors came together and was just,
I cried.
Get the fuck out my house. Like
kept saying, keep fighting, don't give up, don't give up, get your life back. And they was and then you started to see them going back into their food. They were freeing themselves from this bondage of this weird white man. Like it man, that was very deep. Definitely deep ancestor reverence. We gonna transition into episode 4, History of Violence. We can really speed through that one because it's a national treasure one. I was in the kitchen a lot more than actually watching it. It just turned into national treasure. And Kev, you got something?
Because the thing was with this one here, after episode 3, I was like, okay, that was lit, turned up. And then HBO sent out the tweet and was like, yo, we gonna give y'all the episode a day early because it's lit and we know y'all gonna need time to recover. And then I watched the episode and I was like, bro, I want to fade all y'all. That was trash. Like, I wouldn't say trash. And it was like, I like seeing Black people in like a national treasurer type of feel. Black archaeologists is great. They exist too. So I like seeing that. But as a whole, the episode, I was like, after episode 3, I was like, this was kind of trash, bro. I want to fade y'all for this because y'all got my hopes up and was like, we're going to give it to y'all a couple days early. I'm like, oh, it's about to turn up. Y'all giving it to us early? I'm ready. And I'm watching. I'm like, bro, what's up?
And
y'all gotta talk to me. Y'all gotta holler at me about this.
Right. And Kev, you can share with everyone. I'm sure everybody felt this way when we discussed earlier about Misha Green saying that she dropped the ball on this particular episode.
Yeah. So this was recently. Because what I love about Misha is, and the team that she started with the writers' room, which from what I've seen is mostly women too. From mostly what I've seen tweeting, but she admitted because somebody asked her about that character, and she was like, "Yeah, I dropped the ball on that one." She basically just flat out was like, "Yeah, I did. I dropped the ball on that. I misused her, miswrote her." And to me, it says a lot. Says she owning up to her mistakes, but then it also says, "Yeah, we realized that episode was kind of trash." It was kind of, I wouldn't say trash, but kind of lackluster coming after episode 3.
That was the episode, I guess, like wherever, like when they were like under the water and had to do all that. Okay, well, I guess me as a teacher, I definitely, you really, when we went from the third episode to this one, how could you top that, honestly? You know what I'm saying? But in the same breath, I did like the fact that, it was showing like critical thinking in Black people. And, I really enjoyed that just because I feel like a lot of the times and I'm not my nephew here right now, so it's not like I'm about to go turn this on for him, but at the same time, like I like that they show Black people thinking critically and it's being explorers and going under the water, not worried about our hair getting wet. You know what I'm saying? Like those typical things that I feel like you would see. I like that. I like that they showed that Black people could be explorers and we could, think deep and we can figure out clues. And so that's what I appreciated that, as far as seeing, I guess, things that you typically don't see, from Black characters, in shows. It's like that critical thinking aspect. I appreciated that.
Yeah, because they had
I think it's because they hyped it. I think it was because they hyped it for me.
Yeah.
It's the way HBO was tweeting it, like, bro, it's about to be lit. Y'all want to catch this? I'm giving it to y'all for the free early. Boom. And then
I feel like though they did, like, there was some like turning points, some major turning points, you know what I mean? Like even when they were able to figure out, like whenever he stuck his hand in that thing, and the blood went, I don't know, I'm a geek, so I kind of enjoy little stuff.
That is cool when you.
I appreciated that.
Yeah, like just what I'm saying. Like, so there was, to me, there was like little gems in there. Like it definitely wasn't like that previous episode, but you saw them kind of gaining context. You know what I'm saying? They were starting to get it. And that excited me because I'm like, okay, we're getting closer. We're getting closer to getting all the clues and getting the things that we need to figure this out. So it was cool to me in that way.
Yeah.
I have to agree with you on that one because I feel like it wasn't the most interesting episode, but it's probably one of the most essential because it tied a lot of the pieces together, like the whole underground piece, the whole significance of the house, the blood piece, like the cracking the code. So I think that maybe they could have like packaged it differently, but it definitely was probably one of the most essential episodes that they had.
Yeah, and the character that we were Kevin and I were talking about was the lady that they found, that they kind of revived, like got her back to life. And
that siren lady.
Yeah, and Montrose slit her throat, and I was confused because I didn't know exactly where she came from. And then Kev was like, well, Misha Green as a writer, she was like, I fucked up on that one. My bad.
I think that it did come out of nowhere, but I think again, like the little gem within everything, I think it was to highlight that Black people weren't the only people that were getting persecuted. There was other people that had other things happening to them that, we forget about, and they are just as important to our story because it's another, and I, of course, I'm always going to be the corny kumbaya person, I'm sure, because I'm a teacher, but I really do think that it's important to involve all kinds of people in the progression of people getting to a certain point, and for me, that's what I viewed that as, is like, even though this person doesn't look like us and they don't sound like us and they might come from somewhere else, their story is still very similar to what we went through as people and being, persecuted because of what we look like and things being taken from you. And it was almost kind of like how you said earlier, the way that she died, you know, she was held captive in that way. And then Montrose, dumbass, just don't kill her, you know, and then she just stuck in that whole thing, you know, so.
So what you think that meant, like Montrose killing her? Like, do you think that meant like he couldn't identify with her and like everything that you just explained, like he couldn't even see himself in her?
I think it like scared him almost, you know, like I think that he was so scared of it that he wanted to, you know, to dim that light. He was like, well, I want to hear what this bitch said, you know, and like it's done. Like we don't need to hear what she says, but I think that that happens to people more often than not, even Black, especially Black people, that their voices are cut out too soon, you know. And so I feel like that was what happened with her. Like she, you know, we didn't allow for her to have a narrative. And I think that happens to Black people and all different kinds of people so often, is that we dim that light. We don't let them have their moment of this is what happened to me and this matters and this is important. And I feel like it just even shows that maybe as Black people that we have a tendency to do that as well, because I think that we sometimes view our problems, and they are, and I'm not, you know, discrediting it, because our problems are very important. But I think that sometimes we view ourselves as like, this is our fight, this is what we're doing, and we forget that other people have the same story as us, and that it's important for us to listen.
Cause I ain't even go that far. Okay, I didn't even go.
Okay, but Montrose too. I think one of the reasons why he killed her, because I don't know which episode it was, but he was trying his way of protecting the family that George asked him to do. I feel like he felt like it was just getting too deep. Like they were finding too much information, too much things, past history is gonna be brought up, and I think and
it was gonna be distracting.
What if she started talking again and they getting deeper into finding this and finding that? So I think that was just a way of in his mind of protecting the family.
Michael, you had some thoughts?
Yes. Well, how everybody doing today? I know y'all ain't seen me in a minute. I'm glad everybody back. Just a real quick disclaimer. But and I appreciate Kale speaking on that piece about men. I do feel like it comes down to self-accountability, to speak on that real quick. But to speak on this particular episode, I do think it's really cool from an archaeological standpoint that they showed how the voice is taken from us. Like, and the way like Tick got so mad at it, because if you think about it, it's kind of like all of us sitting in this room. Past a certain point with our grandparents, unless they've been keeping a long history of our bloodline, we don't know where we come from. So it's kind of like a parallel of like, we don't know our own history, and our parents might not see the effect of it, but we as children seeking that in the spiritual age we want to know where we come from, because we're in that time where we are rising again. So I think it even showed so much significance, and metaphorically, for Tick to get so upset, like, I'm trying to get answers and you over here blocking my blessings because you don't want something uncovered. Because if you then did some wrongs that you didn't feel just about your life, you feel like now this is your way of protecting me, but it's really from selfish intent. So I thought it was pretty cool how they depicted that.
That's real. Look at us being Black and intelligent. Okay. All right. We're gonna transition into episode 5. Lord have mercy. Strange case. White privilege and Black women magic, and trying to figure out how those two come together. So this is the episode, just to speed it back up. This is the episode where Ruby finds out about the magic. She's introduced to what's his name? Lawrence. What was his name? White man.
I don't remember. Was it William?
I'm not into white men, but he was good looking, so I can understand. Okay, that's all I'm saying. He was good looking. But how did y'all feel about that play on Ruby feeling like white women are the standard to success, to career, to money, to, you know, just it was very triggering to me, because I've been through so many corporate jobs where I've outdone white women and my employment was on the line. And what I mean by outdoing white women, whether I'm giving more creative ideas, I'm hitting deadlines faster than them, I'm moving faster than them. And it's one of those things where you still get burned even at the end of the day. And it's like, you have this skill that you possess, that you can come into something and make the world, you know, or make this company as great as you want it to be, but you're also stifled because you're outworking the other women. And it was sad to see that Ruby felt like that was the standard. And you wanted to work at Macy's, girl, bye. But at the time, that was big. So, and then I would definitely want to talk about how when she did change to the white woman, how she was hard on a black girl. So, Whit, take it away. I know you're gonna go in.
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite episodes because I thought it was just so raw in so many different ways, visually, where they wrote it. So one, let's talk about the full circle moment, right? So the fact that like she went in with this whole ideology of like what it was gonna be like on the other side or whatever, and like how she was gonna like how the things she was gonna achieve and et cetera, et cetera. And honestly, I think she also got a whiff of what it's like to be a white lady in terms of like how they're below white men though, right? Because she realized that like, oh shit, like the white women gotta kiss some ass too. Like, wait a minute, like this is a whole nother thing. Her being hard on the black girl, oh, that was unique to me, right? Because going to from HBCU, there were
the logic though.
Yeah, it reminded me of like the HBCU lifestyle, right? This whole thing of like, you know, you kind of go through this haze of an experience to make you harder and better for the rest of the world. And like watching her, I knew that's what she was doing. She was calling herself, preparing her, but then she was also jealous of her. And we talk about this a lot as Black women, how older Black, I don't know if y'all get this, but I've seen older Black women give you, you know,
like that. They be like, you young gals, and you be like, girl, like what's the past to the facts? Damn, like yeah.
And that's what Rudy reminds. It's a salty, sweet type of like mentorship where you provided me with something, but you kind of hating on me at the same time because you envy me, like because I took a risk that you were too scared to take. Because Ruby just never applied. She never took the risk. She assumed that she could never get the job. Mm-hmm. So when she realized that, damn, she kind of been holding herself back too. Like I think that was like a hit to her ego or whatever. Like, and so she took it out on her. I don't want to go through this as much. I know everybody has something else to say, but this is literally one of my favorite episodes. Like, I'm thinking of way too much right now, so I'm gonna pass it on. But yeah, I thought it was just it was reflective in so many ways of Black women at different levels of our lives or whatever as we progress, not only in our career but in our personal development. But yeah, I'm gonna pass it.
I think the Ruby, is it Rudy or Ruby? My bad. Whatever it is. I feel like that her character too played a lot into the colorism and sizeism. I made that up probably. But like
that's the thing. That's the ism.
Okay, and I don't know if I really necessarily like that because we see that all the time. Like Ruby, whatever, was the darker tone sister. She was a heavier set sister. And then you have Letty here who's confident and bold and
But isn't that kind of accurate though? Because I think if they would have switched it around, would have been believable, particularly for the time period.
I mean, yeah. I was gonna say, I mean, I feel like because my sister's lighter than me, and you know, my sister used to call me ugly because I was dark. You know what I'm saying? And so you just gotta. I feel like it was very much so. It played into how it really would have gone.
No, it was very accurate, and I think too. So having that aspect of it too is why I think the need and want like to have. I think that she liked that a white man would be attracted to her, like that, like gave her a sense of, I don't know, self-worth. And so when William came around, even when he came around and she realized it was really Christina, like she still like needed that love and acceptance and some kind of self-worth. And I think that it just like her role like really played into the inner struggles we have as Black women within ourselves outside of white people. And I think Rudy, that was one of the most interesting pieces to me, like her character and the whole transformation into a white woman thing, and how she kind of got off on it a little bit. But then too, I did that's where Christina comes back in, where it kind of gives me a little bit, I kind of mess with her a little bit because she did kind of spin that around for her, like, look, you got this magic, don't just be out here being a white woman to be a white woman, use it to kick some ass. So I don't know. I thought that was a very interesting aspect of the show and one of my favorite parts.
Ruby was one of my favorite characters in the sense of I wanted to see Ruby the most. Like, and
Same.
it might have it probably stems from understanding colorism and sizeism and understanding how difficult her life probably was for her. And then she's the big sister, and I'm a big sister, so I also understood that part, like that, like tension you can have with your younger sibling because why you ain't calling mama and checking on her? Why you ain't at your mama's funeral? Like I understood those things, and so bad I wanted to see Ruby so much. Like I wanted to understand her. Like Ruby's a person that very much exists today that needs to be heard. And so every time I saw Ruby, even if I didn't agree with her actions, I understood that wherever it came from was like really deep rooted. And I don't know, I just love the character of Ruby, even if I didn't agree with all her decisions. I think that was a vital piece of the show because it's a vital piece of who we are today still. Like, and that needs to be discussed and it needs to be viewed. And we, like, when they say Black women got an attitude, like, okay, let's peel that back some. Like,
Yeah.
who's that?
I was just agreeing. I was yesing.
Oh, okay. Thanks, sis. And so, yes, I just feel like that needs to be she's worthy of being understood. And I feel like characters like hers get written off right away because they tough. But that's why Black women getting written off too, because we come off as tough and hard on the outside, but we just got so much within us, you know. And I feel like it doesn't often get explored because of the color of our skin, especially the deeper we go, the more quicker we willing to write somebody off. And size too. Like, so I don't know. I think I just love the character Ruby again, even if I didn't agree with all her decisions. Like, I just think she was such a vital part of the show.
Yeah. And the spirit of a Ruby, it comes from that. Like I wasn't hot on her wanting to be a white woman or even experimenting being a white woman. But I understood her pain of why she wanted to tap out of her Blackness for a second, because her Blackness was full of oppression. Her Blackness was full of pain, trauma, and shit. Acceptance. She was not accepted anywhere, you know. And she had talent. She could sing. She had all these skills, and that's overlooked because she's Black. As a Black woman, that shit is tiring. It is tiring, you know. Wanting to, and I felt Ruby, you know, in the sense of me trying to get into a side job during this pandemic. And I did a quick training and it was only like Black women there. It was only white people there. And these were like baby boomers that's like diehard racist. So I walk in and I'm trying to do this training to be a florist. And they were like, just, ugh. And you know, of course I caught on to the skills fast. I knew how to create a bouquet and do an order, and they were like amazed at how quick I was. But it was so fucking tiring to be there because I didn't feel welcomed. It was very uncomfortable. I would come home drained as fuck, and I understand that. And I don't fuck with it, but I understood why Ruby did what she did. You know, you got something? I'm just venting at this point.
No, literally, it was just to add on to what you two ladies just said. So basically, I mean, y'all remember she said she used the word undone or whatever. Like she was like, it felt like she was coming like unmade or undone. And then Christina was like, no, basically, I was giving you the power to make your own decisions. She was like, you misunderstood. I wasn't giving you the power to be white, but I was giving you the power of the world. And like that to me was hella deep because I feel like as Black people, what you were touching on, how I interpreted it, like you just want to check out, you just want to be just unmade sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because on the flip side, our white counterparts, they think completely different because they don't have that same type of impression. And so she's like, you have all the power in the world. We don't sometimes realize, and that's why the Hippolea episode, when we get to it, was my other favorite episode, because when you realize you have all the power in the world, like it's insane what you can do. But it was crazy that and I think that's why she frustrated a lot of us, because she was limiting herself, and we all limit ourselves so much sometimes or whatever without even realizing it. Like we have boundaries because of our race, our gender, our size, whatever. But then we have also like opportunities and ways to leverage and, things that we don't even think about because we're so caught up in like these barriers and challenges.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just said I agree. You go ahead.
Well, I was gonna, I mean, and I'm being vulnerable, but when I was younger, you know, I wanted to be white, and I did, you know, I mean, and I feel like I understood how Ruby felt, and to feel like, because I mean, I went to private school my whole life. There wasn't very many Black people. My hair was different. My skin was different. My family situation was different, you know? So, you know, I mean, I remember, and it wasn't like my mom didn't teach me to love myself or anything like that, but
that's how you saw.
Yeah, that's what I saw. And so so much of me, didn't identify with Black, you know what I'm saying? Because I really, I wasn't around. And then, like I said, when I was around my family, I was the white girl. And, so I always just felt, not accepted, you know what I mean? And like I said, I was the darker sister, and, I didn't mind being outside. So I identify with Ruby in that want to feel like enough, you know what I mean? And like, I mean, it's sad, that, and I feel like we have to be aware. And I think people are more aware of, how we make other Black people feel. But it was sad that it took for her to have that power, I guess, or whatever she felt that she was getting from it. Because like I said, I felt those same ways too, like I wasn't enough, or maybe if I looked like this, or if I was something else, I would be enough, And so I thought it was beautiful for her to come to that realization that, I don't need to be this. And I, especially when she was sticking that high heel up his booty, I was like, oh Lord.
She made it clear I'm Black as fuck now.
Right.
But the point that I also liked was the fact that no matter how she viewed herself, they were still the white man still, that's what he wanted. So as low as Black women felt about themselves, they were always still the envy of all the white men, because they couldn't have that, or they felt like that it was the thing that they shouldn't have. So it was more appealing to them. So I also it's just really weird, when the way that you view yourself and sometimes the way that other people view you, and how it was almost like Black women were that forbidden fruit for white men, and they wanted that. Even going back to slavery, you know what I'm saying? They would take advantage, you know what I mean? And that's what they wanted. They knew they wasn't supposed to have it, so that's what they went to get. But like I said, I mean, I definitely related with that battle of, I look like this, I'm this, and this is what I see around me, and this is the definition that I see of what things should be. And now I have this, and now I see, that ain't where it's at, So I like that she kind of went full circle in that whole thing.
Okay, period. So I want to ask a question to all the women in here, just a yes or no, and you can give a brief summary so we can get through the rest of the episodes. Would you all be a white woman for a day?
Full disclosure, my mom is white, so I would have to say, if the question is, okay.
If I need to rephrase it, let me know.
She said breathe.
If it's, keep your question the same, but if it's to ask to have an experience like Ruby, I would say being biracial and being lighter complected, I have benefited from looking the way I look. So in situations that Ruby desired, I would say I have had the benefit of some of those situations because of the way I look and because people know my mom is white. So I would say I wouldn't never in a day choose to be fully white.
Yeah. But
I do it for a day. I go take that heel and go do it to somebody real quick.
Yeah. I would be a white woman for the day to catch some tea, sit up in them Trump rallies like, oh, really? Okay, we're gonna blow. What time we blowing it up?
Only if I still worked in corporate America to see what my coworkers be talking about. Cause I know they be talking it, bruh. I just want to be in the room with my little latte, whatever, and my yoga bag, getting all the tea,
Yeah.
I see I don't want to do that because the next day when I'm Black again, I'll be too mad.
No, I ain't gonna be mad because I will never get mad about knowing the white person is racist. It allows me to know where you stand. That's why Trump don't make me mad, or his followers. Okay.
I couldn't show up to work the next day. and be like,
Yeah, and be like,
You don't want to fade them.
That's the thing. You've been there every day and they've been talking shit. So now you just know. So you know how to move better. Like that's all it is. It's about intel.
I couldn't say what I would do if I was in Ruby's place or Rudy. I don't know, whatever her name is.
It is Ruby. You gotta put some respect on her name.
But right now, at this day, I would have no desire to be a white woman for a day.
okay. Kev, would you be a white woman for a day?
Hell no. Come on now. Why would I do that?
Because you will learn the insides of what's going on. I don't know.
Would you be a white man?
No.
Did Carrie answer? I want to hear Carrie answer.
I definitely would want to be a white woman for a day. There are some privileges that I need to make up for these past 30 years that are like a little behind. May rob a bank, may stab somebody that did me dirty because I know, and I do white tears because hey, if I have the privilege of Christina,
Yeah,
like in the bank. But for real, I really would, and I probably use my privilege, and like as a white woman, there's a lot of privileges that come along with it.
yeah.
I couldn't imagine me having this mindset without thinking like, okay, so I'm white. Let me first get with one of these black men that just love white women. No, I'm joking.
I was just about to say that. Literally, we best friends.
I know I might be with like Rich Bush or something, you know. But then but like using my privilege, like and straight up, and if I'm a rich white woman, oh yeah.
Oh, we going in. We get loans for the wealth stand. We get loans for the community. Oh,
yes. They'll be like, why is she doing this? Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Okay, we're gonna slide. So episode 6 for me was kind of whatever. It was Meet Me in Daegu, the non-foxtail succubus chick. Any thoughts?
Hey, T, explain it some more. Tell us some more about the episode.
It was when he was in the Korean. Well, he was fighting in the
flashback episode.
Yeah, well, Kev, you can talk about it because I ain't too much care about it. I mean, it was cool, but you know.
I mean, I didn't. So, how am I gonna say this? I didn't really understand what was the purpose of it, besides that being the reason why he went home, because it was because of that situation and the flashbacks and. Well, I was actually, I take that back. That wasn't the reason why he went home, because he actually got orders to go back home and he went back home. Yeah, honestly, I don't know the point of that episode now to think about it. I really don't. Like, because besides her character being that essential piece needed to flip the script on the magic, I mean, but then again, this goes back to me when I said to T earlier that I feel like only one character has an actual solid character arc, and this goes along because it's just like I don't understand what was the point of this character being introduced besides just saying, oh, Tick fell in love with somebody over Korea who was killing men after sex. I don't really know the point of it. Like, well, I'm not sure.
Because she's in a part later on in the story, though.
You said what?
So they had to introduce her because she's an essential part to the story later on.
I get that she's an essential part,
when
but then also
police come and then she pops up again at the very end. Yeah. So you kind of have to give her relevance or give her a backstory at some point.
But
you just got this random monster jumping in and saving people.
I think this is where the issue comes in, where you take books and you flip them to shows, because there's probably in the book more detail and more insight into this character than is given in the show. Because like I said, yeah, she has a key part at the end, but the way it happened, the way it was delivered, it was just like, it was a cool episode, but at the same time, it's just when you're looking at the grand scheme of things as far as how it moves along, it just, as a person who's, you know, looking at this and it's like, okay, what's the point of this? Like, yeah, I get it down the line. After all, it's like, okay, but even then, it's still, it just didn't really mesh well with me.
I feel like it had like that historical piece in it though, because that's what really happened when men were over, you know, in Vietnam, and they would, you know, find a random girl, and then, you know what I mean, then they would have those biracial babies with them, you know what I mean, whenever they would be overseas. So I feel like it was probably maybe just touching on a historical point, fact maybe. But I mean, I feel you. But I also think like how you said earlier, it's like black sci-fi. You know what I'm saying? Like some of that stuff, I was like, sometimes I hate it whenever the monsters would come out. I'd be like, man, y'all killing y'all killing the show. Like, yeah, I know that was the whole point, but I'd be like, dang, like like whenever they had the last episode, whenever she was hitting the cars and stuff like that. I'm like, really? Y'all gonna have this damn monster come out of nowhere? Like, where'd that come from? But that's why I thought that she was in there, maybe to touch on some like, historical stuff from when they was overseas, they was messing with all the different kinds of women.
That's
Whoever
true.
was over there.
Was this clarify this for me, y'all? Was episode 6 also the same episode where we kind of found out about Montrose and his real life? Like Montrose is like he loved the queen. So
was that the same? I don't know. I think this episode was solely a flashback.
That was the previous
episode after. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean,
when they were at the museum, kind of a little bit, when the dude, like that random guy who rode with them to the museum, and he was like, he had said some little side comment to add.
Oh, yeah, it was a lot of foreshadowing from the first episode. It was a lot of foreshadowing.
The episode about
when he was talking about how he smashed Letty and she was still a virgin.
Yeah, I think that was a National Treasure episode.
He had caught a ride with all them to that museum.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he had said it to Atticus. And but I don't know the episode when we saw him and his guy eating breakfast. I don't know what.
That was after the flashback.
Right, it was after. So, I don't know what episode. No.
I remember, yeah. I remember.
I gotta say that I agree with Kev though about I can't remember the Korean character's name, but I didn't see the point of her, like even with her having that essential part at the end. I feel like there could have been another way for that to have happened without because it was like, oh, we were just here to do this. Like even if we had a whole episode about you, if you just kind of randomly come in at the end and like, oh, I got you, and like,
by the way, I'm back.
Right, and I feel like it would have been because her character, the succubus, whatever the monster was, like the whole deal behind that was that it harmed men who harmed women, right? So I really expected. And I don't want to go too far ahead, but in that scene with Dee, where she was with the police, I think that's like the Korean woman had just shown up. So I'm like, oh shoot, she about to come out and hurt the police because the police about to hurt this young woman. I'm like, I'm really expecting her to show up, right? Because I feel like that would have been meaningful because we had this whole backstory about, oh, it hurts men who hurt women. Here are these men about to hurt this little girl. That for me would have meant something. For her to just show up randomly at the end, it was like, well, okay, sure, okay. Like it just didn't mean much.
I did that.
Yeah, it was just weird to like. I wouldn't say weird, but it just for me to sit there and watch the episode and be like, okay, you're explaining that Tick fell in love with this woman, and you're also explaining that this woman is a succubus, and you're also explaining that
she had toxic motherhood too. I did that was heavy. Yeah, her mother was trash.
you highlight in that episode that when she couldn't control herself no more, and the nine-tailed fox was coming out, and it showcased Tick, basically dying. I feel like there was a piece missing because if you go back to the beginning, I think it was either episode 1 or 2, he calls her, and she was like, "I told you not to go back home," or something like that. I think, like I said, I think this comes. No, he called her. Remember, he picked up the phone and dialed the extension and was like, "Y'all need to go to this." He dialed her. It was when he was in his pop's apartment. And like I said, I think this is another case where there's more detail in the book that they just couldn't fit in the actual TV show, because he's called her a couple of times. And then even at the end of the episode of the one before that, the actual glyphs he was looking at, it basically, I forgot exactly what it said, but it basically was like, "You're about to die." So that was their segue into that episode. But it still was just like, I mean, I guess if you put it that in context with the way the episode ended and when he called her, it makes more sense then. But I would say to spend the whole episode on that, but at the same time, the person that was the actress, her response to that was she was glad she was able to get a role like that. So where she had a lot more focus on her. So I appreciate that because, reading more up on what she was saying, she was like, I wish people of, my descent and my, nationality, things like that will get more roles like this. So I appreciate that, appreciate Misha for doing that. But yeah, it was one of those, other episodes where I was just like the roller coaster was just kind of going.
I will say though, I think everyone can agree those were some fire ass sex scenes happening in that in episode 6. I will say that it was just nothing but sex for me, and I was like, this episode trash, but it was a lot of ass clapping, and I wasn't mad. I wasn't mad at all. It was some good ass sex scenes. It was tasteful. You know what I'm saying? It was very tasteful. So,
but Carrie has something.
I actually like this episode. It's like the historian in me. And I feel like it was very necessary. If you think about like the overall theme of Lovecraft Country is the horrors of racism and white supremacy. So in this episode, we are exposed to the introduction of the Korean War. Like the title of it is Meet Me in Daegu.
Daegu, yeah.
Which is like a play on Meet Me in St. Louis, which is what she is looking at.
What she loved, yeah, okay.
This idolization of America and what she thinks America is, even as this monster, she still is like entranced with wanting to be an American and want to live this life. That is what once this thing is out of her, that's what she aspires to be. Even to the point that when, like, after her friend got killed and she got close with the soldiers, specifically Tick, and she made that comment and about essentially them being able to do whatever they want, and Tick and the other soldier was like laughing, like, no, we ain't singing and dancing like Judy Garland on streetcars. Like it's very terrible. And then we also saw Tick be complicit in perpetrating the white supremacy that he is ultimately fighting against in other episodes. So like pulling the trigger on behalf of the American soldier, which I feel like even in what was that episode 1 when he walked past the recruitment and like he kind of stood back when it was like, you know, sign up, it'll help you out, and here he is like complicitly killing a group of people of color fighting the same battles that he is like legitimately fighting in his own time, at his own home. And so I think it was, and then that connection is what really brought them two together. Like the fact that he really wasn't this person, but he had to be because he's an American soldier. She didn't really want to be this monster, but naturally, like, because of what her actions of her mama, like, that's what connected them. And we needed that. I feel like we had to get that background story to a Tick. Like, that episode is really slept on getting the understanding of who Tick was pre-magic and shit. Like, that was his first exposure to magic. So it makes sense on why this nigga was like, I'm getting the fuck out of Korea.
He was like, going back to America, you're weird.
But he was already leaving before he figured that out, though. That was the thing. So I'm glad you brought that up because now it does link and make a little bit more sense when you bring up the whole visual of her wanting to be, you know, American, wanting to go to America, him being like, nah, it's still trash, you know, and especially the other, you know, Korean person like, no, we don't get treated right over there. Like, you better off here.
I think so.
So I get that. I definitely get that. I don't know. Still, it's that roller coaster for me. It was just that, oh, this episode's good. This episode's good. This episode is good. That's kind of how it felt for me. I wouldn't say it was bad. It was just,
What were you saying, Erica?
I'm sorry. I'm saying I think it kind of goes back to like perception as well. You know, how we perceive ourselves and then how other people perceive us. Because, you know, I'm sure that Tick probably would have never been like, oh yeah, you know, I'm, you know, even though he had that face of a soldier or whatever, you know, I mean, going back like how she said, like to the historical pieces of it, you know, that's real. You know what I mean? Like Black people probably, you know, if you go to Vietnam right now or whatever, I don't know if everybody saw that other movie on Netflix. Hold on, Austin. But you know, I'm sure that they view, you know, the Vietnam people probably view people as, you know, in a way that we probably wouldn't necessarily perceive ourselves, you know, because of the things that we did for America, you know. So I just think it goes back again. I think it's just showing another group of people that were persecuted by And again, of course, us, we view it like, oh, we were doing something for American, but they might not have seen it that way. They just see Black and white people over here doing things to our people, you know. So we rationalize in our mind why Tick did what he did, but that might not necessarily be everybody else's perception of why he did what he did.
True.
If that makes sense.
True. Okay, y'all, we slowly but winding it down. But I want to go into this episode with this poem because this was so fucking dope. Because we didn't believe them when they told us our rage was not ladylike. We did not believe them when they said our violence goes too far. We did not believe them when they said the hatred that we feel for our enemies is not godlike. They say that to women like us because they know what happens when we are free. Free to hate when we must, free to kill when we must, free to destroy when we must. That is our freedom. That is our prayer until we grind them into the dust. That is our love. Episode 7, gang all day. If that didn't have me like, I am beautiful, I am powerful, I am great. Like, I don't know about y'all, but episode 7, Hippolyta, from her breaking the code to trying to figure out how to create the thing, opening up the portal, doing math. And I'm like, girl, I don't go past 10 times 10, okay? And she was like, if you carry like watching a Black woman be a mathematician, that's something that I haven't seen since Hidden Figures. So to highlight that back into Black sci-fi, into television, that was like so fucking beautiful to see because it was in her DNA. And then a conspiracy that I want to share with you all about, well, not even a conspiracy. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Steven Universe. No? Okay. So Steven.
Yeah, I am.
Who said I am? Okay, yeah. So apparently that godlike woman figure that was like, who are you? Like, state yourself and this and that. She was like, bitch, what are you talking about? That was supposed to be like
Garnet.
Michelle, by all means.
I'm letting you get to your point, but yeah, I can see where that was supposed to be like Garnet.
Yeah, I'm assuming like that was like an archetype of this, divine woman that I thought in my interpretation that was God. And when she kept asking her, when she kept asking Hippolyta, like, who you are, like, state yourself. And she was like, where do you want to be? Like, where do you want to be? What do you want to do? And she was like, I want to go be, I want to be dancing in Paris with Josephine Baker. And then she traveled. So my thing is, and I was watching this girl talk about it, and she was also talking about like spirituality and metaphysics. Hippolyta was traveling, the portals that she was traveling through was her bloodline. So she was traveling through DNA. So I'm assuming that these women that were showing up in these parts were literally parts of who she used to be. And when she became George's wife, that part of her kind of like died, if I'm making any sense. Like, she was traveling through her bloodline of past lives. Okay, there we go. So anybody want to talk about that one? That was my favorite.
Who has seen Stranger Things, and specifically season 2?
I know of it, but I haven't seen it.
Okay, so Stranger Things season 2, there's one Black boy on there in season 1 and 2, and then he has a little sister who you see in season 1, but then she kind of becomes more prominent in season 2, and she's a scientist and she's extremely smart. But going back to why it's so important for us to tell our stories, because y'all didn't watch Stranger Things. It's a bunch of white kids on there, and it maybe this didn't appeal to y'all. Where Lovecraft Country, it appeals to you, and like you get to see this Black scientist and this mathematician, and she's such an intelligent woman. So I think just going back to why it's so important for us to tell our stories, because we're drawn to us telling our stories. I did like this episode, but I'm not gonna lie to you, I still felt random to me. Like the other ones I'm sorry sis. The other ones that felt random to y'all, it felt a little random and misplaced. And I wish and maybe that was the point. Like maybe that was the point. I wish I would have put more emphasis on her in the past episodes. But again, maybe that was the point. But it just felt like for that to be, and I can't remember, but that was pretty much an entire episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, did anything else happen except for them? Oh, what didn't they drive to St.? Is that when they drove to St. Louis, or is that another time? Oh, that was another time. That was another time.
No, that was in the same episode because he did pull up at the end.
Oh, because
so,
he went
yeah,
to get a car. He went to get a car, right?
Yeah, they
right.
were traveling during that
Hey,
same
shout out
episode.
to
It was
St.
more
Louis. We be on all shows. But anyway, so to me, it felt a little random, and I, again, understanding that maybe it was supposed to, but
Here's why I feel like it's not random. I don't think it's random because I felt like this was also foreshadowing. Now I see what T was saying about the going through bloodline, but I feel like that question of being asked, "Who are you?" It was because when she married George was the one that was doing all the traveling. She was at home, and I feel like this was her on her own journey and being able to explore the things that George was exploring. Not because his was in time and things like that, but I felt like this was her time to actually travel and do what she's never been able to do before, because George was always the one doing on the the trips and everything. Because you remember the first episode, she was like, "How about you stay here and I go on the trip?" And he was just like, "Nah, like let me go. You stay here. It gets hectic on these trips." And I feel like that was a kind of a callback and foreshadowing back to her just kind of being stuck at the crib all the time and not being able to have her own journey. And this was that ability for her to have that journey. Like she was like, "I want to go dance with Josephine Baker." Oh, okay, cool. Boom, bye. You can go do that. You can go have that. And there's all, T, remember when we talked about this before and you was like, "You have any conspiracies?" And I was like, "No, I don't got nothing." But then I think about I seen something that might have possibly sparked something because someone said that actual woman was D. How you gonna leave when I'm talking to you? But they actually said, I seen someone that said that the actual woman was actually D older.
I like that.
So I don't know how true that is, but there's also something else I want to mention about D that I'm gonna get into later that popped up as well that I peeped that also kind of makes sense for that. Well, no, not really, not necessarily, because that still happens. But yeah, I think it was just more so for her to have her own journey and her own stories to tell, because she didn't get a chance to go on the guide trips. George was the one that could come back and say, "Oh, this happened in this state, blah, blah, blah." And like I said, I just feel like this was her time, her chance to actually do the things that she wanted to do because she wasn't at home with a child while he was out, doing the guide trips.
So the reason why I left, I'm listening to everything he's saying. The reason why I left because it talks about how freedom is taken away from, I'm not going to say, what am I trying to say? Freedom is taken away from Black women when it comes to their dreams and their aspirations. And do you all remember the context in the dialogue between her and Josephine Baker? Hippolyta said, and I'm a nerd, so Hippolyta said, "Now that I'm testing it, freedom like I've never known before, I can see what I've been robbed of. All those years I thought I had everything I wanted, to realize that I became the Negro woman that white folks wanted me to be. I feel like they found a smart way to hang me without me noticing the noose." Josephine said, "Don't that just make you angry?" Hippolyta said, "Furious. Sometimes I just want to kill white folks. And it's not just them. I hate me. I hate myself for letting them make me feel so small." Josephine said, "What else do you hate? What you gonna do with all that anger?" And I watched this hella times because it was just so like heart-wrenching to me that we don't even realize that we come into the world and play ourselves small when we become one title, whether we are a teacher, whether we are a wife, whether we are a mother, whether we are a creative. We still in some ways fuck around and play ourselves small because we either feel like we can't reach this goal or we feel like it will be doing too much if we got all these titles as a multi-hyphenate. And that just stuck out to me so much because we easily lose our power once we submit to one thing. And I thought that it was just so powerful to me because she traveled through her bloodline to see the power that she had in all these different lives. But when she became George's wife, that's when she felt like there was no power at all. And it was just deep. So I just want to share that. But
Yes.
Whit-
Oh, is Whitney speaking?
yeah, Whitney.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically I think one reason I love this show, and I'll read the book eventually, is the fact that it goes through all these different layers of Blackness. And I feel like Hepaliah represents like the Black woman that we all know who basically like didn't reach her goals or didn't necessarily go as far as she could have went or whatever. She's hella smart, she's hella talented, she's hella skilled or whatever, but she's usually, you know, in some role that's not as mediocre, that is not at her highest. And so this is why this episode connects so much to me back to I think it was episode 4 with Ruby, because literally like everything you just, that whole dialogue is what she was going through internally. Like, you know, when she realized that, yo, on this other side of whiteness or whatever, like, yeah, you can be white, but damn, I could be anything with this whole like magic thing. Like I've been low key, like, you know, playing myself. And then she realized like the limitations, even as a Black girl who has, you know, who's at the counter, what those limitations look like. And she was angry. Like, she's like, damn, like even when you reach, you know, this level, like I'm envying this young girl, but she got her own hell. She had to pay for that position or whatever. Like, and so she, you know, and she's like, what are you gonna do with all that anger? And that's what she did with all that anger. So like that to me, I think is like two sides of the same type of woman or whatever. Like when you make a decision to do one thing and when you make a decision to do another thing. And so yeah, this is literally this, like, even though it was a little odd and kind of hard to follow, if you went back and watched it, it kind of made sense over time. I thought it was literally probably the most powerful episode. And I did get the whole God element as well.
I think so
like,
too.
What else would it be?
I think so too, especially when she went to go back to talk to God and she asked her, like, is this permanent? And the figure was like, yes. And she was like, can I go back? And she was like, home doesn't even sound like home anymore because I've traveled so many places and there's a different part of me. And she ended up sacrificing to go back for D. And I don't know, it just showed the epitome of a Black woman and the things that her undying, unconditional love. You know, she lived this free, she was a free spirit. She could do anything, go anywhere, travel anywhere, but she said, but wait, I need to return with my gifts to save my daughter. And that was pretty dope. And it inspired me as a Black woman to not, I'm gonna have my doubts because I think that's just ingrained in us over so many different, you know, generations, but that definitely highlighted the power that we must exude to literally get through half of what we have to get through to know that I am this, I am that, and standing on it. So that shit was so beautiful to me. But anybody else? I'm sorry.
Leslie has something to say.
It was kind of just playing on what you guys said, but more surface level, because to me the episode was kind of, I don't know, it kind of did have me like, okay, like, but I think to me it meant, because I know, like, I'm not a wife or a mother yet, but I know that a lot of times once you get into that role of a wife or a mother, women tend to feel like they've lost themselves and they have to let go wayside of their creativity and the things, the goals and dreams that they have for themselves. And to me, this episode was about realizing that you can have them both. And you can still want to be a wife, you can still want to be a mother, you can still want to hold it down for the family, but you can still, that doesn't mean you're any less strong or independent or creative, and you can do all the things that you want to do. And like, that really touched me too, because, you know, I think sometimes the society is like, I don't know, it feels like you know, it kind of like now it's like downplaying people who want to be a wife. Like that, you know, you shouldn't want to, that shouldn't be the only goal. That should be a goal to attain, being a wife and a mother. But for me, I want to, like, I genuinely, like, that is a dream and a goal of mine to eventually be a wife and a mother. But that doesn't mean I still don't want to do, you know, that I don't have other priorities. I don't have other dreams. So to me, that is just like, as Black women, we can do it all.
We can. And when she had that conversation with Uncle George, it was like, you let me just be stagnant. You know, you allow me to just be under your whatever, and that wasn't fair, you know. And it's like, we also have to hold our men accountable too. You met me when I was like this. Like, you have to continue to push me like I'm pushing you in this household and these bills, and you know what I'm saying, like, just everything. So that's why it struck so deep to me, because it was just like, man, like, the world don't even like push us and motivate us and inspire us. You know, please don't, when your own home and your own partner and spouse don't, you know, push and motivate you and inspire you, it's almost like, where am I? Who am I? Where can I go? It's crazy.
But can I know this is probably leading into the next episode, but I just want to say it. When she was away, finding herself is when Dee was harmed. And I feel like that is something worth talking about, because the second a woman kick back just a little bit, it's like shit go to hell. And I feel like I understand that she saved her, but so Emmett was murdered. And so she's at the funeral. Nobody's. Oh, I'm leading into the next episode. So before I do that, I just want to. I just want to say, like, Dee was harmed because her mama wasn't there, and I'm not saying her mama was in a bad place anyways, because she had just lost her husband.
She couldn't find her husband.
She mentally and emotionally, she was just checked out, and she knew in her heart that something else happened to him. So I think everybody was just kind of checked out from Dee, because shit was hitting the fan. But I just want to call that out, that the second that she went to go find herself is when her daughter did get hurt.
Yeah, Valerie, I completely agree. And I think that's when I go back to talking about the succubus woman in Dee's scene in this episode, where she was with the police. I'm like, I think the reason I even thought about the succubus is because I'm like, of course somebody's going to save her. Like the whole time I'm like, okay, like this is not going to go down. It's not. Right. I am convinced that this is not going to actually happen. Like this not, whatever they're trying to do is not going to work, because somebody's going to show up in the nick of time, and nobody does. Like nobody shows up for this little girl, and I'm like, that said a lot to me. Like that was, when you talk about representative of what happens, I'm like, yeah, like I feel like all too often people don't show up for little Black girls. Like, I just want to take it back to like real life. I recently, and I wish I hadn't, but I recently have like become aware of like this whole red pill, alpha male. I don't know if y'all have any idea what is going on. Like, there's all these channels on YouTube where these men are talking about, you know, just basically how to manipulate women, because they're all hurt. They're all men who've been hurt by women, and now like instead of just figuring out how to suss out women and vet properly, they do it all the way. Like it's worse than Hotep, because it's not like Hotep, at least they pretend to be for you. Like no, like they all like, nah, fuck these hoes. Like but it's like I was actually like on one of these sites, and this man had posted, and he was actually the guy that owns the YouTube channel, had posted about a Black man who had gifted his 13-year-old daughter, a home for her birthday. And if you read the entire article, it goes into like how he wanted to teach his daughter the ins and outs of real estate by buying her this home. And this guy who commented on the post apparently didn't even read the article and was like, well, I hope it's so he can teach his daughter the ins and outs of real estate, because otherwise she gonna be like, otherwise as if he was going to let his 13-year-old daughter move into this house alone. Like, why? But it was like, otherwise if she does that, she gonna be thotting around in no time. And I'm like, how is it that you grown ass Black man, like, how do you feel like that's okay to talk about a 13-year-old girl like that? And I feel like it happens way too often. Like Black men, like people just feel like our bodies are just like little Black girl bodies. Just be like, I remember being 16 and walking down the street and like grown ass men telling me how, you know, why don't you switch? You walk too stiff. Why are you? I'm 6. You can tell I'm a baby. Like, why are you? And I felt like so in that scene, yeah, she's like, don't nobody show up. Like, not for little Black girls. So I'm sorry, I went in. That was a whole personal.
No, let's just take it. Can we go to the next episode?
Yeah,
so
hey, we had it, Jigabobo, and the only comment to Jigabobo is the girl. Hey, the Jigabobos killed it. They was
they was talented.
But I'm glad you brought that up, because to me that was the overall theme of the episode, was that when she was crying for help, nobody was paying attention to her. Nobody was giving her that time and attention that she needed when she was asking for help. And in the end, she ended up getting hurt because of it. She was going through stuff. She's lost her father. Her mother's gone. She don't know where he's at. She just lost one of her best friends. Now she's attacked by 2 police officers. She's being followed by demons. She needs their help. Tick's gone. Tick's is, you know, he's off in, you know, the same space with you know, her mom. Montrose is off, you know, doing whatever. Ruby is off with Christina, and, you know, Letty is off doing her own thing. And it's just like, they all just not paying attention, because it really brought to light when she walked up to Letty and was like, yo, And he's like, what are you doing? And she was trying to tell her what's going on. And she was just like, look, just go back to the house, just chill. You'll be all right.
Go get some water.
Yeah. So it's just like that. To me, that episode was really mainly about how no one really pays attention to young Black girls when they're crying for help sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my favorite episode out of all the episodes. Because Dee was a really cool character to me. She was just, I don't know, she was just so like, she was real cool. And to see what happened to her when they in line at the funeral, and I think this is what happens too, like even now, when you think of Emmett Till, they become so big in the sense of like the media and people, and like, but this was her best friend. Like this is like somebody so close to her, and they're standing in this line talking about him in front of her, and nobody's watching her. Like nobody's like making sure that she is okay. I think they're more worried about Hippolyta. How do you say her name?
Hippolyta. Yeah.
Hippolyta.
Hippolyta.
So I just feel like nobody's focusing on her, even in a time where it's obvious you should be. Like everybody's so distracted.
Could you make your kids be quiet, please? It's really distracting.
You need to kiss my ass, okay?
I'm just kidding.
Protect Black women. And so I just feel like this episode was really important for that reason. And I think like it goes back to the second a Black woman lets her hair down, some fucking shit happens. Like it's important. Like we need the village. We need everybody around us to help us raise these kids and be there for our girls and our boys. But it was one of my favorite episodes for multiple reasons, but specifically just the story of Dee was she should have never. Like what Michelle said, I kept thinking the whole time, somebody gonna pop up. Somebody, because 4 people was looking for her. Like, I don't know. I love that episode.
You, Val, you definitely kind of just hit it on the nose in the perspective that I didn't even think of. And I think it's because I'm probably not, I'm not a mom yet, but I haven't been in a position as a caregiver yet. But around the time when I went off to college, my mom kind of like disappeared, and not in a sense of disappearing. She moved to Baltimore to start her life, and she had my younger brother with me. But she was also, when I look back at her having a 13-year-old, a 12, 13-year-old at the time, and then you have a 19-year-old, 20-year-old that's going away to school, you kind of feel like, okay, I have one off my shoulder, the other one's with me, I can kind of live my life a little bit. And my mom kind of pulled back from motherhood, and me not realizing, now that I'm 31, I'm realizing like, oh, I needed my mama back then more than anything going off to college, because them demons that followed me were, you know, over sex and over drinking, over drugging, over, you know what I'm saying? Like doing shit that, like, those demons were my influences, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't have no guidance when I went away to college, and I wasn't really in my right mindset. And then on top of that, I was acting out because my mom wasn't present. And so did my little brother end up being. So like, I see what you mean when you say as soon as a mama lets her hair down, like shit goes away. And I never thought of it like that. So that's like a really good perspective to look at and to take into consideration. Like mamas is human too. But I understood the frustration that Dee had for her. She was like, you left me. But little do you know, like, she found herself, but it was in a sacrifice of her child. So that's really deep to look at. And then it's like, your mama is also a Black girl that's being ignored, you know? And it's such a cycle. And how do you break that? You know? So that's something to really look into. Like, your mama is still a young little Black girl trying to find her freedom. And, you know, her mama wasn't available for her. And the moment that she's not available for you is shit goes wrong, but it creates a cycle of like resentment and all this other shit. And all we were trying to do was just be free. It's crazy. It's so crazy.
I'm curious to know, and I'm gonna say this real quick. I have a son, and when I was pregnant with him, I remember I was somewhere shopping for my registry. Babies R Us, and this Black lady walked up to me, and she was like, you know how Black women can always tell how you carrying. You having a boy, ain't you? Like, how you know? They always know. But she was like, you having a boy, ain't you? I said, yeah, I'm having a boy. She says, be careful. She says, Black women, she says, we raise our daughters. She says, but we coddle our sons. She was like, raise your son. I was like, oh shit, like that was a word. I'm like, it kind of makes me wonder, had your brother been the older sibling, like just based on how it went, and I'm like, because now that I'm a mother, I see it. I see my tendency to want to coddle him as opposed to like making him stronger. And I just wonder, like, yeah, had it been your son, kind of based, I mean, her son as opposed to her daughter, who was the oldest and off to college first, would that have been the same experience for him? You know, because it's like she raised you to, you can cook, so you can feed yourself. You gonna get your clothes washed. You gonna handle yourself. But she probably have felt the same way about him. Oh, are you eating? Let me call him up. Do you need food? Or you got enough on your college? On the books. What like I feel like
about that video with that woman. There was a video of a woman where she calls her daughter. It's like a reel. I'm gonna send it to everybody because it's fucking hilarious because it's so true. It was a woman, she's pretending to be a mother and she's on the phone with her daughter. She's like, when I get home, you better have the dishes ready, the this and that and the other, all these chores. But when she get on the phone with her son, she was like, oh my baby, have you eating? Oh my baby. Do I need to send you $200? Have you eaten? Oh my baby! Like, but that was so true though. Like, and why is that? Why are we hard? And then it's even talked about right now on Red Table Talk when Willow says like you treated Jaden like whatever, and you were like hella hard on me. And it's like, and Jada Pinkett was like, oh yeah, for him it was because of this, but you. No, we wouldn't finna have you not being on schedule, not being on time, not like I would like she and Jada was like, I wasn't giving you no leeway, Willow. Like, no, like you a Black woman, but like what is that? Because my mom treated my little like still coddles him to this day, and I'd be like, bruh, like I'm not. Can I get a hug?
Had Dee been a little boy with the experience have been the same. Had Dee been like, oh, I need help.
Well, I think I would say then that we're overlooking Emmett Till probably because that's a Black boy that was, brutally murdered and obvious. And again, I just don't want to take away life from little Black boys because Emmett Till was a little Black boy. In that same episode being, casket open at the funeral, they smell that smell. So I don't want to overlook the harm that was done to a Black boy either because...
No, not at all. Not. I guess I'm like this. I feel like the situations are apples and oranges because right now we talk this little Black boy, and white culture and white supremacy and what they did, what happened to him. And I'm talking about us, like as Black women and Black like how we treat little girls, like and within our own community.
For sure.
What I was gonna say was like, and traditionally though, when you like, especially like back then. It was a lot more stories about, Black men and the things that were happening to them. Not saying that there weren't things happening to Black women, but I do feel like it's something that's probably just kind of carried over into generations. And maybe that might change because now we are seeing more Black women, being, harmed and persecuted and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But I feel like traditionally, it was the Black men that were, getting hurt and hung and, getting, brutal, just brutalized by, white men. And, so I feel like I'm wondering maybe if it has to do with, generationally, we coddled our Black men and we kind of, I don't want to say that because I don't have any brothers. It's just me and my sister. So, but I'm wondering if that had anything to do with it, just because, in the past, those were the people that were being mainly victimized was the Black men. So it's almost like, I feel like parents, whether they know that they're doing it or not, I mean, it's of course more harming than they are doing good in the long run. But I'm just wondering if internally if it's something that has been instilled in Black people just because of the things that have happened
because of trauma.
I feel like I go back to like Michelle's point too, because at that time what was more fear, what did you fear more and what was more important maybe, like because white society was hanging Black men from trees. I feel like that fear was more prevalent in needed to be reacted to quicker than our Black girls. But obviously in hindsight, we know that how harmful that was. But at that time, so maybe that makes a lot of sense to me.
That makes all the sense. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. You had something?
Oh yeah, you good. So yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite episodes as well. And I would say it's definitely a micro of the macro where you have like both black boys and Black girls suffering, but it's happening in different ways. So Black men historically have been hold on, I'm talking. Historically, Black men have been, lynched and accused of rape and so on and so forth publicly, and so or killed and usually or jailed or whatever, and thus leaving the Black woman who's also being victimized, usually sexually, emotionally, spiritually, to kind of take on the pieces. And so that trickle down effect then it becomes, okay, I'm protecting the Black man because the odds of him getting killed mentally in my head is high, and I know the Black woman is still gonna have to suffer, but she's gonna have to stay strong in order to take it on, in order to build up the next generation, or at least be here for the next generation. So I know, so I think subconsciously that's really how we kind of operate. And then these episodes show that, like, you have the Emmett Till thing where it's like this huge thing, and then but you still have D where it's like something has happened to her that's just as tragic, but it's not. It's almost invisible, right? It's like it's happening and it's impacting her, but nobody can see it. And so I think that that's literally and I think that oftentimes the argument often comes down to who's suffering the most, and really it's not like a competition, and we all know this, but I'm talking about on the grand scheme of things, where it's like we're all suffering, but it's just like the narrative is often placed on the males because we as women in general just don't have a voice or often a platform to even say what's happening to us.
It's almost like Black men are physically attacked and Black women are spiritually attacked, and like you said, it's not a competition, it's not a comparison. Either way, it's wicked, but we literally lose sight of how to we don't even have the space to grieve from that. We just pray that it don't happen again. It end up happening again. And it really hinders, it hinders our growth as a whole, as a collective, because man, I didn't even think of it like that. Like, while one person is being executed, like another woman is, like a man is being executed, and then the woman of that man of the family or however is just as, traumatized. So no,
Can we talk about D and Christina conversation in that? I mean, not D, Ruby and Christina conversation in that episode. Well, you remember Christina was like, "Do you even care?" And Christina ended up saying, "Nah, I don't care." But she was like, "Do you? Like, do you really care?" So I want to hear other people's opinion. I don't want to give mine, but Christina's relationship to Emmett Till was interesting to me in this episode.
Explain it. I'm open to.
Don't you remember? I don't know. I
remember that conversation, but was she trying to get Ruby to admit, like, you tired of being Black anyway? So do you really care?
Yeah, I didn't know what she was really drawing from it, but I think for us in our generation, I could see like you say, like it happens again and again and again, and we almost become numb to these situations happening. So do we really care, or
are you really mad?
Yeah. Are you really mad? Like, and so I thought that.
Or are you just acting?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
This ties to the whole thing now.
Right. And then the way Christina chose to die, that actually pissed me off.
Yeah, I asked Kev about that. I was still kind of confused, so I want to hear more over the line of like, why did she do that? Because I had a friend who was like, well, because Christina really liked it, Ruby, and she wanted to feel Ruby was. And I was like, friend, no, like,
no.
Like, that's how Christina decided to die.
You remember at the end when Christina like paid somebody to
exactly how they did
Emmett Till.
Yeah, it was kind of weird.
It was because of something that Ruby said.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of like a metamorphosis. That's what I thought.
So was she trying to empathize, or was she trying, like, what was she doing?
Like if you remember the book The Metamorphosis, I read it a long time ago, so I don't remember all the details. But it's like this whole idea that in order to go through a transformation, you have to basically suffer and be broken to be built back up. So kind of like when butterflies go through, like, they mush down to mush and then you come out this beautiful butterfly. That's what I got from that.
But I guess my question is why that in that way? Because she could have been killed in any way, but she picked specifically how Emmett Till was murdered.
I think it was so she could experience that, because we can all say, oh, I think it was this and I feel this way. There's nothing like it when you're actually, going through that. But that bitch was gonna come back, but so it ain't the same. But I think that she wanted to experience that, just to see what that felt like. So yeah, that's the only take that I have from it.
It was the conversation she had with Ruby. I don't remember the exact words exactly, but Ruby asked her, like, do you know how that feels? And she was like, no. And then I would have to go back to get the exact verbiage from it, but that was what triggered that. When Ruby asked that question and she was like, no, then she was like, well, then you can't question me about how I feel. And to me, I thought that's what triggered that, was because that little weird love triangle between them.
So my question is, like, so was it, so that's what I'm saying, was it out of empathy, or it's taken off of what Whit was talking about when she said it was almost like metamorphosis, like I have to die to become whole again, to become like a phoenix? So was she using that? So because she's still so focused on magic, was she using the energy of his death to like revive herself, to make herself stronger? Because it was very potent. Like the whole city all of Chicago came out to see this man, and we were all focused on Emmett Till. So was it out of empathy, or was it out of like execution to be better?
Definitely wasn't empathy. I don't think it was empathy at all. I feel like it leans more to what Whit was saying, was that metamorphosis. Was because it felt like to go through something, because I think it also ties back to her having to kill Tick to get immortal. Like she had, like, in order for her to get that, she didn't have to do anything. She had to kill somebody else. So I think it kind of ties back to that metamorphosis thing that, Whit mentioned.
That made me hate her, honestly.
Yeah.
If there was any piece of me that kind of liked her, that did it for me. Where going back to some of the stuff Carrie was saying, I'm like, oh, this bitch, this white devil. Like, there was nothing more that made me uncomfortable in that show than that scene, because to see that was uneasy for me to see a white woman die in the way a black boy was murdered. Like, it did not sit right with me. I hated it.
And only to feel what he felt,
and knowing she was gonna survive it.
Like a choice, like we don't, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, she made a choice to die in that way. Like, we don't have a choice like that. Like, yeah, like whatever the reason that she did it, however she did it was bullshit, or whatever her reason was.
Right, and she knew she was gonna survive. Like, she knew she was gonna come back from it. So that I hated her for that.
It was legit like a representation of white privilege. You hear white people all the time, like, I just want to experience it. I just want to experience it. Like, that's what it like to me.
Yeah, that weird shit. Like, can I say nigger? Why? Like,
and part of it, maybe it wasn't like full empathy, but maybe she just really didn't understand why, everybody was so hyped. Like, and she like, well, maybe if I can die, I can at least relate to her a little bit. Like, a little bit, maybe.
And it's fucked up. Like, you just can't be a human and be like, that young boy didn't deserve to die because he was black. You know what I'm saying? Like
we can see why people can watch videos and like legit see someone innocent dying and be like, well, he deserved it. Like, so it's like that disconnection. I feel like she represented that. Like, that's why she was so, like, and I love the way they made her character look, like blonde, blue eyes, the hair. She was like the epitome of like whiteness or whatever. And she's like, I don't get it. I don't understand.
I don't understand. Oh my God, that is exactly what they say to this day. I don't get it. What the fuck is there not to get? Anywho, episode 9, we're about to wrap it up shortly. Rewind 1921, Black Wall Street. Triggering.
Hard to watch.
Very hard to watch.
I think necessary, though.
I don't know if anybody else watched the show Watchmen. If you guys watched that too.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of, I felt like it was very much so kind of like that. And yeah, I felt like that was terrible, you know, just to watch that happen. I heard you. Sorry. Uh, but but yeah, like it was just terrible, you know, just to know that like that fucking really happened. You know what I'm saying? Like that could really happen, and it was allowed, and it was okay. Like I said, it like on Watchmen, like you know, I'm kind of like how Carrie keeps saying, like kind of you know, I like facts and all that kind of stuff, and so you know, just to know that was allowed to happen, and that there's something in Tulsa now, you know, you know, where they can go see if they're a descendant of somebody, you know, that experienced these things. And it's just nuts to me that it happened, just period. You know what I mean? Like a place that was, you know, peaceful, affluent, and then they just went up there and just wrecked shop, you know what I mean? Just because. And it's just crazy.
I think what was triggering the most was the height of Black communities and wealth, and the fear of now that it's like Black commerce now, we're doing the best that we can, but like it's very scary. Like when we think of like Black Wall, like not even, we don't really have Black Wall Streets here in St. Louis, but we do have Black, like for example, you know, Old North was predominantly Black, you know what I'm saying? And Wellston, Pruitt-Igoe, like we can go down the list, but how scary it is now to try to keep building that. And these are the results of it. And when you saw, I think I had went into it because there was like a portal to me. That episode was like a portal because I was like in it. And how the beginning, you know, in the very beginning of the episode, it was like the dentist's office and Black women and shopping and they're walking and the doctor's office and the banks and it was just flourishing. And there are so many eyes on the flourishing of Black community, and it further shows like Black people, if we continue the process of Black commerce, we are free. Like you won't have no way to, I don't know, like, you know, you won't have no way to microscope our lives anymore because we don't need absolutely nothing from this government, it's just, man, it was kind of like heartbreaking because it's like, damn, if we even attempt to try to build it again, is this what's gonna happen? Because for me to live on the west side of St. Louis and I'm seeing like, okay, Urban League then brought up the old Roberts building, but y'all think I'm stupid. Y'all threw this fucking Field Foods on goddamn Del Mar and the Euclid because y'all finna gentrify. Y'all finna push up. This right here is the Central Corridor that was like known for Black owned businesses, and y'all finna. I see y'all coming. You know what I'm saying? So it's like how, I don't know, man. It's just fucked up how it's cryptic on the movement of like social development and economic development, and it's hindering more than it's helping. And it was just triggering. And I was so like, oh my God, look at all these Black owned businesses. They thriving, they happy, they're, you know, and it's a community. And then that happens. That was the saddest shit ever.
It was terrible to watch, but I have never seen anything like that in regards to what happened in Tulsa. And I learned about it. I never felt those emotions about it like that. Like it was so triggering, but I feel like, I mean, you know, people get tired. Some people get tired of seeing like slavery movies or whatever. Like, I do think that there is such a vital piece of our history that we need to make sure that we're like tuned into and understand the pain and just our history. So I feel like that episode was necessary. But it was very painful. It was painful in the way, and it was like to compare it. So I know a lot of people compare slavery in America to the Holocaust. I feel like the Holocaust has been depicted in in ways like that, where it's just like heartbreaking to see. Like it is hard to watch. So it actually, for me, like I appreciated seeing that for us. Like, so, and maybe we the only ones that see it. I wish more people would see it like they do the Holocaust, but I that pain I feel like was a good pain to have for it to like really embed in me, like that I will remember that. And I know that was also the episode where you're thinking that Tick's dad, like you think that those thoughts that he's thinking are Tick's, but they're actually Tick's dad, and you realize that when he's getting beat and he was like, don't you ever put on a dress or whatever he's saying to him.
That was so sad. Yeah.
That I feel like was such a good, and the whole time, like, so Tita, what you're saying, like, I feel like when Tick and Letty got back to Tulsa, they like bright-eyed bushy tail kind of, and how do you say his name? Montrose, like he is fearful, like he is tapping into something that is so triggering to him. And I know, like, for our relationship with a lot of our Black dads is very can be very traumatizing for us, and we think like we hold our dads, again, I'm not saying it ain't nothing wrong with it, but like I think sometimes we forget to humanize our fathers in a way, like because they have fathers that were abusive to them. So like Tick is like, I mean, and understandably, Tick is like really hard on his dad, and again, understandably, but Montrose also had an abusive father, and he lived a life that wasn't true to who he was because he was forced to. So I think like a lot of times our generation, we really are very big on healing and working through our trauma so we don't pass it on to our generation. But I think what we miss is that when we are holding our parents and the generations above us accountable, that we're also tapping into some of their trauma, and they don't have the tools uh, to go back there in a healthy way. Like you just see Montrose just like crumbling that whole episode. He is so weak and he's in pain, and like I feel like that's where, and again, I don't think there's nothing wrong with what our generation is doing, but I do think we sometimes miss the pain and trauma that the generations over us and our parents specifically have experienced. And I think that kind of humanized it.
And it was a level of favoritism too. Like he's also ignored because Uncle George was more like the loved child, and like we love George because he's this and this, and Montrose was like not supported at all.
He was struggling with his identity.
Yeah.
Like to be raised a young Black boy raised in a household with a father who's obviously got some macho whatever beating them and stuff like that, and to know that you're gay and you can't express it, you gotta hide it at every chance, and then to have the person who the guy he liked to be shot and murdered in front of him, like that is a lot. I think that episode to me it touched on childhood trauma, which we all have, and I think like it shows importance how we like that is definitely something important that we need to like understand how that affects us in our adult life. And like if Montrose had the same opportunities that we do now, like therapy and stuff like that, like maybe he could have understood his childhood better, and how the way his dad treated him affected him. Maybe down the line it could have made him a better father. But I just think that just hit on the like really importance of understanding
such a cycle. Yeah. And like Atticus said it, like the whole time you beating my ass like because you gay and you didn't want me to be gay and because you was really gay. That is some deep rooted shit.
But he was doing it because he wanted to. I think in a sense, it probably, like again, in Montrose probably was a form of protection. He didn't want Atticus to go through the same crisis he went through as a little boy being gay, like the pain and the struggle that he went through. So I think, yeah, it's just a whole lot to unravel with that.
Carrie.
It was a very heavy episode.
Yes.
But when I was watching it gave me sympathy for Montrose. It was like the first time I wasn't like this nigga. I was still like this nigga because he was walking all slow and shit. And I was like, if you don't have this moment a little faster, I would not like I felt exactly how Tick felt. Like all them facial expressions when he was looking, he was like, nigga, like we gotta go. And he just like, but it was again, that was like a PTSD moment for Montrose. But Liddy also, her scene was like so dope. That last scene where Tick Ancestors was just like, what is it? I forgot specifically, but she touched Letty's stomach and was like, he's my future, or he's my legacy, or something in that regards, that he's the dreams of which I can't live. So that's why
he's my faith come true.
There we go. It was just like so on point. And then that walking, like at that point, she was immortal. So like just calmly walking with that book in her hand as like the bombs are dropping and stuff. It set a nice precedent. And then again, the whole reason why they there is because the black woman Hippolyta got her hands all hooked up, got the portal ready to go because she tapped in that previous episode to who she really was. This black
We had something to say.
Oh yes. So okay, yeah, I had to go back to my thought. So one thing I wanted to say was I think the reason the Tulsa element was more powerful here than we've ever seen it before is that it was connected over time. So usually, we think about historical things of that element. It's usually like an isolated moment. It's like you don't think about like how it relates historically to all these different characters and all these different people and generationally and the impacts it has, for generations to come. And so you had spent time like basically in the future with like, in real time with these characters, and then to go back to see like, damn, like this is the root of it all and what really could have been like, what really could have happened that was destroyed. So that was one powerful element. I love the fact that Hippolyta reaches her like godlike element, because I feel like when her hair turned blue, she reached her godlike element. Like I was like, oh, she's a goddess now, like in my head. I was like, she cracked through. So to me, that even though like she was completely exhausted, it was a breakthrough moment. Like, and it was like, so to me, that was the dopest part of the entire episode. That, and then what Carrie mentioned earlier was when Letty was with the ancestor, and she kind of like, it was sad to watch, but it was powerful that they kind of had the connectivity moment. And that's what I mean by like the element of like time and history in this episode. It was like everything was connected. Like you had Tick coming back to like save his dad. You had Letty coming back to get the book. And so it kind of, to me, played into the element of us having the tools like already as a people, us just needing to reach back and understanding what's there and like how to leverage them in order to like really make an impact.
I think it goes back into traveling through DNA. I truly feel everything is connected. You know what I'm saying? Like I just learned my grandmother's name yesterday. And I said, what did she do? And my grandmother told me, she went around and preaching, and she used to do sermons over the phone, and she used to do public speaking. I said, well, damn, Granny, I do public speaking. She was like, well, there's that. So, and I'm like, that shit is like, it's all interconnected. And we still like healing traumas that we don't even know. We still healing shit that we don't, cycles that had nothing to do with us. And I even have my moments where I kind of like get upset and I'm like, this shit ain't my shit. And then I'm realizing like, yeah, it is though. Like it's gonna always be your shit. It's in your bloodline. So you're gonna have to, because when you think about like toxic parenting, when you think about how my parents treated me, how were my parents treated at my age, and how were their parents treated there. And those are the moments where I'm like, this ain't my shit, but it is, like, it's in you, and whether you ask for it or not, like, and it's for you to change. So it was very deep, very, very deep, for sure. Somebody else.
I thought, as me watching it, it tied in a lot of things that were mentioned in little drips that dropped through like the beginning of the whole season. Because like I said, just foreshadowing, it just tied everything together between the relationship between Tick and his father. From the beginning, when Tick, like I think even when I think maybe he mentioned something like that when he talked to the old lady and when he first arrived in the first episode. I think he mentioned something about how him and his father had eyes or whatever. And that was the reason why he left and joined the army and stuff like that. It tied everything together as far as this is why, it gave Tick that, that view of like, this is why your father is the way he was. Mm-hmm. This is the trauma that he dealt with. Not only did he have to deal with Tulsa, he had to deal with, the death of somebody he cared for that was, a part of who he was becoming, that he basically had to hide. And then after that death, he had to hide it even more, so it's like he's
at the same time, he
compounding.
was breaking up with him. Like he didn't want to be his friend, and that's like you just constantly dying. Like yeah, like you said, hiding yourself through all your truths. It's sad.
And yeah, and I think that was also forced because he didn't want to do it. He was just doing it because his father was beating him. You know, he didn't want to break up with old dude because old dude was like, "No, what are you talking about?" And he didn't want to do that. It was just all that. It was just like a compound of trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. So it's like your father's finding out, so you're getting beat from him. Then you go to break up with him, he gets shot. Then everything hits the fan. So it's just like so much that compounds on him. And I think it culminates at the end where he's having that monologue where he's speaking or he's reliving those spots. Because Montrose's character, when ladies walk through the fire, his monologue is speaking about those old moments and old pieces of Black Tulsa when he's like such and such, we used to go there for this and this and that. And he's like reliving those traumatic moments and letting it all go before he goes back into the present.
So clarify, because I think I was still confused, but now that we're talking, I think I get it. So Atticus is really his mama and George's son, but they lied and said it was Montrose, so Montrose don't look gay?
I believe so.
He was married to her anyway, so like, you know, it kind of went with the situation.
They had
I thought they just didn't know. I thought the mama was kind of like a hoe and was messing around with both of them, and then they just didn't know.
She was not no
the
hoe.
fraternity. Shit, look, y'all. Shoot,
No,
y'all
I don't think they knew. I don't think it was for sure whose it was. I don't.
That's what.
Well, no, they let it know. They let it be known.
Yeah, that was the only way that he was able to like do something in the story. I forgot what it was, but it was like because you're his son. He was the closest family member to D, I think, or something like that.
But we never got to that point because that's when he told him that he might be the closest to D, but that's when
I didn't think they ever disclosed who was who.
Yeah,
So after in the beginning of the next episode, when they're sitting down, he asked Montrose, he was like, "Did mom know?" And he was like, "She wasn't dumb. She had eyes. She noticed." So I think that goes into the whole thing that because there was still an affection for George, is to where his lack of intimacy towards Tick's mom is what, pushed her in the arms of George. Because like I said, a lot of people
dating in high school.
They were dating, yeah.
But no, so that's what I said. You got to go back. Episode 2. Remember, George's vision was of Tick's mama. That was not of D. I mean, that was not a Hippolyta.
Right.
Dancing with her.
Yeah, when he was, that was that. Like I said, that.
And he was holding the picture of her on the road.
Yeah, like all of this, like there was some type of love triangle between them, and eventually, I think it was because of Tick's mother dying is the reason why he ended up going and marrying Hippolyta, because she was gone. But there was a long-standing affair between them, and like when they were sitting down on that curb, he was like, when they was talking to him, he was like, "Did she know?" He was asking them questions about it, and he basically like, "Yeah, she had eyes, she knew," and then that's where.
Y'all think that they knew, like Atticus' mom and George knew that Montrose was gay? And that him being with Atticus' mom was just a front, and they were all
that's what I'm thinking, because
I think Alma knew. I don't know about George.
I don't know if George knew, but George knew it was a possibility Tick was his
George
son.
knew. He got his ass beat in front of him. Like,
True.
Because
True.
Like I say, if you remember in the first episode, like I say, George flinched at the thought. Like that was like, I didn't peep that until I went back and watched it again. Like because he mentioned like when he started bringing up old stuff between his father and his mother, and he was like, "What did they tell you?" So he knew, like I don't think he knew Montrose was gay, but he knew it was a possibility Tick was his son. He knew that because he froze up. Like if you go back, it's like in the first, it's the first scene when Tick comes in to the I guess it was the auto shop or whatever, and he's speaking, he's looking through books and whatever. It's a moment in that conversation where George freezes, and you can like see it on his face. But like I said, you don't catch it because you don't know what it is. When you go back and look at it, you're like, "Oh, I get it now."
And when he was And he told Montrose, like, you gotta, what it, he's basically insinuating that it was his son. And then Montrose like, no, don't talk about it or whatever. But he kind of like insinuated on his deathbed, like, you got to be strong because, you his only father or something like that. He said he asked or something like that. And he was like, don't talk like that. You're going to live or something.
I do.
But I'm not sure if he knew that he was gay, but I feel like he knew. I feel like
he had to. So okay. So just for clarity. Okay, so Atticus' mama and George were dating since high school, but Atticus' mama loved Montrose because she was protecting him. Because she jumped in the fight when the daddy was beating on Montrose. But I feel like she was just protecting him. So why did she get married to him? Did he get married to Hippolyta before?
Well, hold on. I will say this though, because Montrose did talk about Tulsa after the massacre. He was just saying like when stuff like that happened to people, the way they come and connect. So I think that was just like an aftermath, and maybe like her protecting him just led into more of a romantic relationship after, like maybe like he just clinged to her for that like sense of security after the massacre. Like, he did say that.
He did say that. I ain't gonna lie, it did kind of go. I was like, y'all had a threesome? Like, what?
Yeah, I was confused about like y'all cool with this? Like, that's why I hope like the protection of like holding up a front that he wasn't gay. Like I want to believe that because that makes the most sense to me rather than having a three-way love triangle. But I don't know.
Y'all know our aunties and uncles be having some fucked up love triangles. That ain't nothing new. Ain't nothing new. Your uncle could be the daddy could be the uncle. That ain't nothing new.
Period. All right, y'all, we about to close it out. Before we close out, before we get to the last episode, I just want to say, if you all can drop your emails into the chat box so me and Kev can get those and keep you all updated with the next upcoming rooms and things that we're going to discuss. But last but not least, the full circle, episode 10. How we feel about it?
I just want one clarity thing answered for me. The only thing that threw me off that I didn't understand was when Christina and Letty are fighting. Does Christina give Letty back her immortality?
Yeah,
no. Yes, she does.
She give it back to her, but why does she give it? Does she give it back to her because of her promise to Ruby? Do you feel like? Why did she give it back to her?
She didn't give it back to her. No,
remember she died.
She didn't. She gave it back.
She falls off that thing, and you see her like she lifts up her thing, and she has it again.
Yeah. This is what I was talking about. Why I didn't like the episode. It's a lot of stuff that goes on there.
I thought it was because Christina died, and then
there's a flashback. So I didn't mean it. So okay, I didn't necessarily like the episode. I felt like it was rushed. And something that I noticed now that you're sitting there looking confused, it was a flashback that told a lot of things. And one of those things was when she was falling, she spoke the incantation again that saved her. So when she hit the ground, she didn't die. Like it was very quick. It was very quick. It was a part of a flashback that let you know that Ruby is possibly dead now because of the way she took her blood for the transformation. Like it was a lot of things that happened in that flashback that basically tried to piece things together.
Wait, so you talking about the incantation that the ancestor gave her from the previous episode when all of that in maternal?
The ancestor never gave her the incantation of invulnerability. That was Christina. She the one that did that. She gave it to her in the church when they were speaking, and she was like, "That'll protect you." She took it away when she didn't get the book from her. When she was leaving out and she spoke it again, it took it away from her, so she was vulnerable again. But then when she was falling, she spoke it one more time and gave it back to her. You said what?
Christina spoke it or Letty spoke it?
Christina spoke it. If you go back, trust me, it's there. It's very quick.
I'm gonna watch it, bro.
No, I'm not.
Only Christina could have done that. Like I don't know anybody else that do that.
When she was in the window, her looking out over the thing as she's falling, and she speaks the incantation again that gives it to her back. Now, what I don't know is, was that a part of Ruby coming back, or was that Christina? That's what I don't necessarily know.
It would have made sense for Christina to do it. If Christina needs that bloodline to make things happen, she can know, okay, I'm gonna be immortal, cool, but what do I need down the line? I'm gonna still need this bloodline going. So if this baby's dead,
what if it don't work with Tick? If it don't work with Tick, I'll need his bloodline. So that does make sense. That makes sense now.
Okay.
Wait, bloodline from who? Look at y'all.
His son.
Tick baby.
His son.
If they need the baby.
So if the same thing what happened to her father happens to Tick, and he doesn't become the immortality thing doesn't work, she still needs his bloodline. If Tick's son is dead, that's it. There is no more bloodline.
So Christina kept saving.
I think that's it makes more sense for her to save Lady and the unborn child as a insurance policy.
So, okay, let's run it back to the speaking of the ancestors, like all of the stuff that the ancestor taught Letty, and when they was in Tulsa, and then they came back, and that was Christina's daddy, right? That they was like pulling in.
No, that was the older person that got Tick's great-great-grandmother pregnant. The incantation was for them to bring back the ancestors, to bring him back so they can take his blood and that piece of his skin for the potential plan that they had with Christina to stop her from being able to use magic and complete the incantation. That was the incantation that the ancestors taught Letty. It had nothing to do with the invulnerability one. It was for that thing where they put the salt and they were in there and they were bringing back the other ancestors to help him fight the main, I forgot his name, but he's the main person that started it all. You still look confused.
His name was Titus.
Yeah, Titus, yes. That was remember the woman that kept running out of the burning building?
That's his great-great-grandma.
That's the main ancestor that got pregnant by him. That's what connected.
Okay, there we go. I think that's what I was always confused about, because people like, that's Tick's mama. I'm like, that's not mama. That's
yeah. She was the main person that got impregnated by Titus. That was the reason why Tick has that bloodline in the first place. Because he is an offspring of those two, and she ran to save the baby.
And the baby was Tick's mom.
They won't be on his daddy's side. They'll be on his mama's side.
Yes, his mama's side.
So the baby she was carrying, that was Tick's mama? Or that's...
No, that was his ancestor.
Yeah.
Okay, just the ancestor. Okay. Whew. Okay. Can't watch Sci-Fi High because I thought I understood everything, okay? Because thought I had it all figured out. I don't. Okay, so okay, so
oh, never mind. I get what you're saying, Whitney. Yeah.
No, wait, I'm sorry, you did have something to say, my bad.
No, she was talking about D being Tick's sister on his father's side, which is true.
So D on his
dad. If Uncle George was Tick's dad. So if Uncle George was Tick's dad, then him and Dee are half sisters. I mean, half siblings.
But
which it makes sense.
He still would have been able to save Dee because he's the closest, or it would have been her mama. It would have been her mama.
I think what Carrie is trying to say, that there's somebody else that might have that same bloodline. Is that what you're saying, Carrie?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. But then Whitney just brought out the connection, the bloodline isn't on the magical side. Because George wasn't the magic, it was Tick's mom. So then Tick would be the descent. The descendants of Tick are the last of the magic.
Yeah.
Oh. We turn it. I'm close. Okay, so how did y'all feel about I noticed that the ritual kind of touched on a little bit of Christianity, and in the sense of being on a cross and sacrificing blood and coming from the ridge.
And white people leading you to the cross.
Jesus. How did y'all feel about Dee? Well, okay, let me ask y'all this. Why do y'all think it was called Full Circle?
Because they told us in the fucking beginning that Tick was gonna die and they ain't changed shit. He's still dying.
I am upset about that. I feel like I was just hoping, I didn't want Tick to die. I love him. And then I just feel like they I didn't like that they let us know that. Like that he was
Ah,
like,
especially because, okay, I understand what you said that at first when Uncle George died, they did not understand they magic. They know they magic by now. I just don't understand why there was no plan in place to say Tick. They magic. Like they can do shit that can't no regular folks do. Like I did not understand why there was no like plan B to save Tick.
They were still studying it. They really only had 2 incantations.
Study that part though. I feel like they should have skipped to that chapter.
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah, neither one of them knew the invulnerability spell. They just knew the one to control the creature. That was literally it. That was the only one that Montrose and Tick knew. Letty knew the one that helped bring back the ancestors, but they didn't know anything beyond those 2. So, I mean,
like basically raised in magic. Like she was legit raised in it. Like they kind of were. It wasn't a fair fight. Like they were never set up to win.
Which is life for Black folk.
Exactly.
What was the purpose? I got two. Well, let me ask you. Okay, did Hippolyta take D to the future to get a new arm to just fuck shit up? How did y'all feel about that? I didn't get that part.
So here's the thing about this. For one, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you go. I'm sure you know the answer. I don't. I'm just talking.
So, am I the only one that tripped off the fact that the episode 9, the whole thing left Dee's arm? Like when her mom came back and did the whole thing, the thing left her arm, but then the next episode it was back, and I was like, that don't make sense to me. But also, Tick, when he came back and told Montrose about the book, he said a lady with an arm pushed me back into the portal. A metal arm pushed me back into the portal. He was talking about D. So he was like, I was there when he brought up the book to Montrose and was like, this is from my son. When he was like, when Hippolyta was going through her time travels, I went to the future. I seen my son. This is his book. He wrote this book about our stories. But before I can actually talk to him and meet him, I was pushed back in the portal by a woman with a metal arm. D. He was talking about D. So it's weird because like at the end of episode 9, the thing is gone from my arm, but then episode 10 is back like it never left. And I was like, I'm confused. I'm confused what's going on.
Okay, so did the Hippolyta, because when Hippolyta was like, I want to show you something, I thought she was bringing her into that room because she had created that arm for her.
She did?
Yeah, she did. He brought her in that room to give her that arm.
Okay, got it.
She was like, I knew some people that taught me some things, and she gave her the arm.
Hey man, I appreciate what D did because I feel like D is that like our generation and the generation us that's like buck wild. They like because they let Christina was still breathing when everybody else left. D like, nah, we finna make sure she dead. Like
I'm finna kill her.
Never again.
Yeah. I think D was very representative of our generation, the generations to come that don't give a fuck. They gonna finish the job like in no way that the generations before us have. I love that part.
Yeah, that was good. That's a good one. I've never thought of it like that, like generational heroism or whatever. What was the purpose of the monsters? Are they spirit guides?
I was just about to ask that. That was the only part I did not get was the monster piece. I rewinded it and everything.
I mean, what about it? Like,
I'm gonna ask Kev, the expert. Kev.
Well, I mean, I'm not an expert, but I just looked at the story. But I mean, in the beginning, they controlled the monsters. That was, I guess that was their way of keeping certain people away from that area. But the incantation that Tick and Montrose spoke created his own version to protect him. That's why Tick was able to control that, because it was two different color ones. There was an all black one and there was the white one. That one that was protecting the estate. So if you ever go back and look,
came up and fucked all the police up.
Yeah, that was the
it came
one
up out the
that
ground.
was all black one. That was the one. That's why Tick was able to put his hand out and touch it, control it. That's why they was like the incantation worked. He created that. That was the spell that he spoke that created that piece, that monster. That's why it was walking around with D like nothing happened, because the thing he spoke, the little incantation he spoke for her as well in the car.
Okay, that was still kind of odd because I was like, what do we?
Like that was for geeky black folks like me that like that nerdy shit. Like some monsters in there. Throw some little geeky science stuff in there.
It was like her own little dire wolf. For anybody that watched Game of Thrones, like I want me one of them, because like I remember like the first episode of that I watched that show. I think it was the first episode. Like the wolf jumped in and like protected this little boy who was lying in bed, brain for anybody who watched the show. And I'm just like, see, that's what I need. I need a dog that's gonna like somebody is over me with a knife, and like the dog jumps up and gets it, because that's what that monster was. It was like your own little like ride or die, like, you know, like you have this dog that is by your side, that has you. And that, I think I love that again, because I got this thing for little black girls, and like it was with her, like D standing there and this right by her side, like, I got you, what you need, like what's up, what we doing? You know,
Michelle point, because to me that was a little kind of like lackluster when his ex-girlfriend like came in the end and like connected to them. Like that wasn't that exciting. It felt like anyone could have done that.
That last episode was terrible.
It felt like Letty could have done it. It just kind of felt like, again, maybe going back, like if in the book there's more detail. It just felt like it was a little like kind of like, okay, I guess that's what you're here for. Like, I don't know.
It was rushed. It felt rushed. Now I think it was because of COVID that it was rushed, but it was so many things that just were pushed together. Like across the board, everybody was like, Ruby didn't have a proper send off. The way they did Ruby was terrible. It was horrible. The ending, everything just felt so rushed. It was like, out of all the episodes during the season, even though I was just like, it was going this way for me, I can firmly say I didn't like that episode at all. I was just like, I was like, this is definitely not a way to end the season. Like, this
it was terrible.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was. Well, I put on the agenda for season 2 predictions, but as of now, we don't know if season 2. They haven't announced if season 2 is returning. So, I just want to say shout out to this dialogue. You know, me and Kev been gone for 2 months, and to come back and we've been in it for it's 4:00. So that's how you know this is a good ass conversation about Black art, Black culture, and Black history. And again, I want to get everybody's emails so that way we can send you our personal invites to other things that we have coming. Hopefully, when COVID continues to rise up and everybody gets excited, Kevin and I will actually be doing like live Zoom parties. Well, excuse me, live parties, live watch parties to discuss and talk, and that'll also be filmed as well. Kev, any other things you wanna touch on?
I mean, we're doing Bad Hair next. That's next.
I literally just saw the preview for that.
What you're doing again?
Bad Hair. It's on Hulu. It's from Justin Simeon, the creator of Dear White People. I've tried to avoid reviews for this, but they've been like out there, so I'm like, this is gonna be funny. I don't like to see things and see reviews before I watch stuff because I don't want it to sway my opinion. But it was at one point it was kind of hard to not notice certain things, so I haven't watched it yet, but I will. So that's definitely coming up next. We don't know if we're going to do P-Valley. Every time we try, something happens. So it's just like we wanted to talk about it. We had a good game plan for it. We had some good topics to talk about.
We had a dope ass promo for it.
All right, we did a dope promo for it, and then the universe is just like, no, sit down. So I mean, if people still want us to talk about it, we'll talk about it. That's totally up to y'all in the community if they want us to sit down and digest the things that we actually talked about, because it was dope. It was some dope topics. If not, we can just move straight on to Bad Hair. We're trying to decide platforms. Before we started with Zoom, and we're trying to see if which platform is better. We're thinking about IG Live, but that's why we asked the poll, like what would people recommend, so we can kind of get prepared for it. And we're still trying to figure that out, like what do people prefer? Do they prefer Zoom? I'm still torn between both, to be honest, so I'm not sure. I see the benefits of either or, but I see the cons of either or as well. So I'm really gonna leave it up to the people to kind of help us decide which platform they would feel best to have these conversations with. So I put it that way. I don't know. T, what else you got to say?
No, just how do you all feel about bad hair being on IG Live or Zoom? We give you all the first to give us some insight on how we can highlight that. Because IG Live, it'll be more quick. You can hop on with us, say what you got to say, and then hop off. Or we can keep this conversation rolling because I've seen bad hair 3 times, and I can honestly say there's so much shit to unpack with it. I enjoyed it. So.
It's a show, isn't it?
Oh,
It's a movie.
Oh, okay. I just saw the preview for actually today. I hadn't heard of it, so maybe that's what I'll do today.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you all feel about Zoom?
I say Zoom over IG Live.
Yeah, it's so more personal.
Rather than people popping in and popping out.
Yeah, this is intimate for sure.
This felt like talking to people that want to talk about it. Like it was the right group of people. Where IG Live just random might happen.
Yes, that's big love. Y'all didn't chill with us for 3 hours to unpack some good ass shit, man.
I have to watch it again. I gotta rewatch the whole.
Yeah, because I'm so confused about a lot of shit.
Now I feel more knowledgeable. I know I got it this time.
I'm definitely. I said I was gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna watch this shit again. And be like, okay, that's what they were saying.
Okay, all right.
All shit that I didn't catch.
It's a lot of foreshadowing in her that doesn't connect until the later episodes. It's a lot of that. Like it starts in episode 1 that really does not come back and connect to you until episode 8. And it's like, it makes sense why he did, why that reaction was that reaction. So it's a lot of foreshadowing that was done by the writer's room. And yeah, it's definitely one of those things where you got to go back and watch again. You will miss something.
It was amazing writing, and like I said, from the mind of a Black woman, from the mind of our history that isn't really taught as much. Like I've learned about Black Wall Street on my own. I learned about Emmett Till briefly in American history, and then when I went to do more research, I learned about it on my own. So to see it depicted. Yeah, go ahead, Kev.
No, I was gonna wait till you finish because I do got one point I want to bring up.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Oh, so after every episode, Misha in the writers' room, they would always basically have open forum for people to comment, tweet, and they would answer questions. So there were a lot of people that were upset over some of the ways that some of the historical moments were depicted. Emmett Till in one. I've seen a lot of people that were upset that they even wove that into the storyline.
Why?
I don't know. I seen with the reviews for the show, I seen two sides of the coin. I seen a lot of people that didn't necessarily, like I said, a lot of people across the board were iffy about the way Misha did the character in the National Treasure episode. That was kind of consistent. But there were people, that mentioned, colorism, homophobia, the way that they, treated certain things with Montrose's character and the brutality of the sex scene that he had and how it was a lot of different opinions that I've seen. And it was a lot of people that was just like, they didn't like the Emmett Till woven in there. It was a lot. It was a lot of different opinions that I noticed. And I didn't know, like mostly everyone here, I don't think anyone necessarily spoke on those, but I was curious if anyone had any thoughts on any of that. Like I'd say if they felt like they didn't do things right. Because I know one of the main things was colorism. And Misha she basically brought it up in the interview and she was like, yeah, we talked about it in the writer's room. We talked about it, but we was like, we don't feel like harping on that. We feel like we just gonna let it be what it be, because it was, the colorism between Lady being lighter and her 2 other siblings are the darker, tone and things like that. So
can you explain it though?
You said what?
That's what I was trying to say, like, and yeah, I forgot who commented, but yeah, that it makes sense because it's accurate, but it's almost just like, I don't know. It would have been, I don't know. It's just always like that, like to see like Letty, the lighter tone was the she was the prize of the show. She was, the confident and whatever, got shit done. And then we have Letty, who I said is darker tone and low self-esteem, and she gets in things
opposite
Black woman. She's with needs a love from a white man. So I think it's not. I didn't think that it was accurate, but I am tired of seeing it from that aspect. I will say.
I think that it was all the topics that they had. Of course, people are going to have stuff to say about it because it's all controversial, you know. And it's not something that people typically want to see. It definitely wasn't, you know. And so, of course, I feel like they really loaded it a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like you have the homosexuality, you have, you know, monsters, and then you have spirits, and then you have crazy white folks, and then you got some sort of not crazy white folks, and you know what I mean? So I just feel like I would be surprised if people didn't have things to say, negative and positive, just because it was so loaded. It was just really loaded, like with a lot of different things that typically make people uncomfortable, you know, that people don't like to talk about. I really like personally that they highlighted, all the gay stuff, if I don't know how to say it any better. But I personally like that just because gay power. No, I'm just kidding. But really though, just because it is still something that is a stigma, you know, in the Black community. And I just like that they highlighted that there's been gay people going through what they've been going through since then and now, and just everything, you know, everything was still very much so where it could be placed to right now. Like there's still all those things that can still resonate today. And so I feel like, you know, but like I'm not surprised that people felt different kinds of ways. You got Black writers and all, you know, and Black people behind this, you know, and so of course people are gonna have negative shit to say.
True. What was you finna say?
I actually like how uncomfortable it was. I like the fact that they touched on things and they incorporated these different historical elements that we don't always see presented in a certain way. Because, you know, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, my phone was doing things, but yeah. So I appreciated it. I mean, and the colorism thing, it does get old, but I think in this particular storyline, it was relevant. Like another storyline, maybe not so much. But I think, you know, her character is all these different things, but she, to me, had a more in-depth storyline than Letty did. Like, I feel like Letty was almost like an assistant character to Tick, but Rudy really gave you like all these different like elements and like layers. You got a chance to really like dive in. So I think we needed to see that in a way. So, you know, people get mad because it makes them uncomfortable. But I remember Tyler Perry talked about this. Like, people hate my characters because they see themselves in them. Like, you can't get mad because you see reality on television. Like, everything that you know, from the harshness of the depiction of homosexuality during that time to the colorism to the Emmett Till thing, that's all reality. None of this stuff is made up. So she just gave you reality on TV. So you know, I appreciate the rawness of it, that it wasn't watered down or, you know, twisted to be one thing when it's not.
It's real.
With bringing it back to our first episode, Blackish. I like that. You know, we talked about that.
Black as fuck. Was it?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, my bad.
Yeah,
it's
we
same
did.
person. You know, same person. We, you know, Kenya Barry.
That show was hilarious.
Yeah, it was. Well, shoot. I wish some of y'all was heard in our early episodes, because we used to crack, especially because COVID had hit and we had nothing else to do but talk. So on Zoom. But that pretty much wraps up everything with Writers Not Biters. Again, we appreciate y'all so much for supporting, coming through, and having some bomb-ass dialogue. Like, we didn't hit our longest mark ever, just about. Like, we still on this mug. So this is really cool. And it flowed, and shit, a lot of Black people ain't really having these conversations like in depth. I learned a lot today from all of y'all, you know what I'm saying? So I tend to go into some couple of places and be like, actually, it was Gil Scott Heron who said, like, you know, I'm finna flex, okay? Because I didn't learn from the crew. I didn't learn from the room. So yeah, please continue supporting Writers Not Biters. We're gonna have a lot of upcoming projects coming in 2021 where you see some visual work from us, because, you know, COVID is not gonna exist too much longer. Like, we about to get back outside. But yeah, we appreciate y'all. Kev and I will have our social media tags at the bottom of any Writers Not Biters stuff, so you will definitely see us. I think we have everybody's emails. And any last closing words, Kev?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Because I ain't gonna front. Like, being gone for so long and coming back, I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And I'm not even gonna lie, part of me was like, why should we even come back? Like, let's just do something different. Like, I even told T, I was like, I don't know. Let's just do something different. Let's find something different to do, because every time we try to come back, something happened. I don't feel like nothing happening right
and
now.
we wanted to talk about P Valley so bad. We wanted to highlight the twat so bad, and we couldn't. But I think this was more important anyways, because we touched on a lot of shit that still is happening to this day. And it kind of gives us more energy and more, inspiration to keep going and keep doing what we're doing in our own personal battles and our own personal bloodlines, because we all interconnected some type of way, and we all fighting for the same shit, which is freedom for real, in however, aspect we see that. But I hope you all have a beautiful week, abundant week, starting off the new month, starting off a whole new season. We about to get into this winter for real. But I'm happy to be back, and I'm glad to see all these new faces. And you'll definitely be seeing more of us for sure. But definitely watch Bad Hair. We'll be promoting that soon to figure out how we're gonna come bring it all back and what day. So you all keep them Sundays open, because it's for the room for sure. So y'all have a beautiful evening.
Bye, thank y'all.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Big love.
Bye, guys.